right. Greetings. Thank you, everyone who is attending our meeting tonight. I'm sure Commissioner Simkwitz, hello. All of the commissioners are present for our first meeting of 2024. Happy New Year, everyone. Our first item is to approve the agenda. So the motion on the floor is to approve the agenda with these amendments. We are going to move the order around of the official actions. And we are going to start off with the BZA applications for 2028 Hearst Terrace and 2835 Hearst Terrace. Then we will move into the Internet Liquor Distribution Enterprise at 5185 MacArthur. Then we will move into the ANC3D priorities for 2024. And then we will move into the program, the sidewalk program review report as our last order of official actions. For commission business, we are going to delete the QFR for first quarter. It's not due till mid-February, and we'll vote on that next month. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Are there any questions from the commissioners on the order? If you would like to follow along on your computers at home, it is in our draft agenda folder in our OneDrive, in our shared OneDrive.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
There is something about the MacArthur apartments in the discussion section of the meeting. Is that happening?
Yeah, they're giving a new presentation.
Oh, okay. Okay, so this is all about stuff that happens after for our official actions.
Yes, so for the public and for the new commissioners, because some of the things that happened tonight, when we have things under official actions, we actually have something to vote on. And if someone is coming to present something that we will vote on in the future, or if there's an agency that would like to make a presentation, then we usually put that in discussions. We should actually call it discussions and presentations. Commissioner Simkwitz.
Why don't we move the elections up to the front to get that over with so we can start with the, our new slate of officers?
I am going to ask Commissioner Elkins, who did some research on the background on this, because I went and read about it.
More important, Madam Chairman, the person who we have to have it monitored by someone who is not a commissioner, and he is not joining us until later.
That's fine. I was just curious. I don't think there's going to be any debate or controversy. I just think that, we should probably get it over with if we can.
So
perhaps when Mr. Allen joins us, we could do that if that's the wish of the chair.
That is a very good point, Commissioner Simkwitz. And we had asked the co-chair of the Transportation Committee to run the elections, and he can't come until later.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. I appreciate the flexibility there.
But I think in support of Commissioner Elkins' suggestion, as soon as Mr. Allen is available, let's just jump into the elections at the next logical point.
Okay.
So that we can, excuse him if he has other things he wants to do tonight.
Yeah, that's where I was going with this, actually.
Oh, we did wonder if he would want to stay until 11 o'clock, although I don't anticipate our meeting going that long. However, he is not going to be here till a little bit later. But thank you all. So all those in favor of the amended agenda with the flexibility on the election of officers? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, I am going to turn this over to Officer McElwee. And am I also seeing Commander Savoy in the meeting?
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon,
Hi.
commissioners. Hello there, Commissioner Duncan.
Hello.
You did see the commander in there, and we apologize. We're actually jockeying between two Zoom meetings at the same exact time. So the commander's going to be speaking at the other one, and she'll probably jump back in here if she gets an opportunity. With that said, I want to say Happy New Year's to everybody, and thanks for having us. I'm going to start off with the PSA 205 monthly crime report. I'm happy to report that our crime is down for the last 30 days. Excuse me, let me turn this other one down here. within your community. In fact, we've seen a large decline in crimes overall, especially with theft from automobiles. For the last 30 days, we had 10 offenses. We'd like to see 0, but we had 10, which is a low number. Up until last night, we had no burglaries. But despite this burglary, we do have good news. And that's that we arrested the individual in that home at the time of the burglary. Arrested was DC resident 24-year-old William Sampson. I'm going to show you a picture of him. Sampson Wright. He was charged with burglary, unlawful entry, and destruction of property. Not only did he destroy the property at the house, he destroyed the property of another residence. This incident occurred within the Phillips Estates located off of 2100 Foxhall Road last night at approximately 10 p.m. Mr. Wright broke through the rear door of the home and actually entered the downstairs area where he was confronted by the homeowners. The homeowners were there at the time. They immediately called 911, and members of our Metropolitan Police Department immediately responded and apprehended the individual in the basement. He was transported to the 2nd District, where he was processed, and he was charged with burglary 1. Burglary, we have 2 types of classifications. Burglary 1, if they break in your house while you're there, that's called a burglary 1, more severe consequences and penalties, or burglary 2, when you're not at home. But he was charged with the most severe, burglary 1. He was also charged with unlawful entry and destruction of property, 2 counts. The one for breaking the back door of that house, and the house that he knocked on prior to entering that one residence. Excuse me for 1 minute. I want to just turn this other one off here.
No problem. Thank you.
I don't want to interrupt us here. And I'm going to show you a picture. Mr. Wright had a hospital band, we believe, from Sibley on his arm, and he was just recently released from Sibley Hospital. So we're told a little bit of what we call mental health issues, most likely maybe compounded with being under the influence of drugs or alcohol. This is the individual. As I said, he was charged, and I do believe he's still in custody. With that said, other than this burglary last evening, our crime is way down. We had 1 stolen auto, which occurred within the 5400 block of Galena Place on December 12th. And stolen was a 2004 Ford F-150 with DC tags. We had 3, I still would like to see 0, but we had 3 theft from autos, which was way down. And to put it into perspective with how big of a decline we've had with the theft from auto cases, back through mid-October and mid-November, we had 30 theft from automobiles. We attribute this reduction to the hard work of our CST members here at the 2nd District. CST stands for Crime Suppression Team. They're a special group of officers who focus in on special crimes outside the patrol responsibilities. And the members here at the 2nd District who conducted real live tracking of some of the stolen items, which resulted in the arrest of numerous individuals. And I did go over this last time, but just retouch on it. Many of our cases were closed, and some of the stolen property was returned to their homeowner or to the owners. Speaking of real-time tracking, the MPD has been strongly recommending that anybody and everybody should go out and purchase an AirTag and or an AirTile. These are like fobs, and you can program them into your phones and hide these AirTags and tiles inside vehicles, backpacks, wallets, and many other items. If by chance your car or wallet or something is stolen, unfortunately, then the MPD can track it in real time. You can purchase these AirTags through Amazon, about $25 for one, or you can get a pack of them. I believe they're 4 for $80 to $100 a set. The locations of the theft from autos occurred. 2 were afternoon theft from autos, and they both occurred in the 5,000 block of Sedgwick Street. The other theft from auto was in the 4,200 block of Massachusetts Avenue, and they were 4 wheels stolen from that vehicle. Between these thefts, 1 vehicle was unlocked and 1 window was smashed out. There was a stolen purse and a backpack that were removed from the vehicles. And again, please try to remove all your valuables from plain view, and always lock and alarm your vehicles if it's applicable with the alarms. And please report suspicious persons, vehicles to 911, no matter how minor it may appear. We had 5 regular thefts, and 4 out of those 5 thefts were packages stolen from porches by who we call porch pirates. While we're on this topic, please try and get these packages off your porch as soon as possible. Also, coming soon to the 2nd District, Amazon is in the preliminary stages of installing Amazon lock boxes in front of the 2nd District for citizens who would like to have their packages delivered there. More information will be following about these lock boxes shortly, probably within the next month. And while I'm on to end it, I just want to put out something. We didn't have any carjackings. You know, we did have a big meeting last month at the ANC where MPD, Captain Haskins, and myself, we focused on what was going on, what we were doing with about the carjackings. I like to spend a lot more time talking about everything, but I don't want to hold you up. I want to just put something out there. PSA 205 will be conducting a community crime prevention meeting on January 30th between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. inside the 2nd floor of the Palisades Library, which is located at 4901 V Street. I encourage everyone to attend and reach out to your neighbors. This will be a very informal kind of a meet and greet where we can basically conduct a town hall kind of setting where we can all discuss collectively what's going on in your community. We can break out the stats a little more in detail, and we can make our community a safer place. And we won't leave until everybody's questions are answered. So I wanted to put that out there.
Officer McElwee, when you're done, could you put that meeting information in the chat for everyone?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're reminding me of that. And real quick, I'm just going to go over some traffic stats, and then I'm going to be happy to take some questions. For the month of January, actually for the month of December into January, I'm a little bit more lenient because of the holidays. Doesn't mean I'm not going to stop you, but I gave out more warnings than tickets because of the holidays. Our traffic stats at 2D for the year of 2023, I got a few of them broken down here for you. The total district wrote 9,358 tickets. If you were wondering how many red lights, there was 450 red lights. Cell phones are getting a lot better because of technology. We had 254 cell phones. Speeding, 63 folks were stopped for traveling up to 10 miles an hour, 212 violations from 11 to 15 miles an hour over. 16 to 20 miles an hour over was the biggest one there. That was 454. 21 to 25 miles an hour, we had 121. And over 25, there were 63. Stop signs, 217. And we had 361 disobeying an official sign. And that charges, for example, like when you turn left in Ward Circle where you're not supposed to, or if you go straight in the left turn lane, Foxhall Road down at Reservoir Road. With that said, I'm happy to take any questions, complaints, concerns.
Are there any Commissioner Elkins?
Yes, well, I'm very happy to hear about this meeting on January 30th. And I wanted to just say that because we've had some interaction with the neighborhoods in the last week or so on talking about priorities, we got a lot of feedback from our residents about their interest in crime. And I think this is a good time for us all to get together with the second district and talk about not just what MPD is doing, but what the neighborhood can do with MPD. I think there's some things, I would hope there's some things that we come up with that we can all join hands and really try to make this neighborhood as unattractive to people who want to do crimes here as we can. I think we have become more attractive in the last year or so, and I think that's undesirable. So I'm hoping everybody will come on out that night at 6 o'clock on the 30th. The other thing I would say, Officer McAwee, is that one of the priorities we're going to be talking about tonight is whether or not there needs to be some traffic calming ideas developed for MacArthur Boulevard. Maybe after this meeting, you might be able to break down for us how many of those tickets that you issued are along MacArthur Boulevard. I know just from your monthly reports, an awful lot of them are. And we have people who are afraid to cross that street, even with a crosswalk. So, and I think rightly so. I just wanted to mention that this might be, we'll have to talk about this, of course, about whether this is a priority, but if it is, it's an area where I think we'd want to work with you and your colleagues to come up with the best ideas, which we then could present to DDOT and others about how to calm down the traffic. One of which, of course, is for you to be permanently stationed out there to ticket these people. So thank you, Officer McAwee, for the work you do.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins, and I will compile all the stats, and I can do that for the year and have them ready for the meeting on the 30th.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from commissioners or the public? That was Commissioner Davis.
Sorry, just one question. Just like anecdotally off the top of your head, how does this past year compare to previous years in terms of like ticket issuance and that kind of thing? Are things like, are people speeding more than they were, say 5-10 years ago, or not as much? Or is there a trend, or is it just kind of, I think it kind of shakes out about the same?
Well, I can say this, the cell phones have gotten a lot better. And as I said in my presentation, that that's because of technology. I mean, really every car has them almost now, unless you're driving like a 1975 Ford Pinto or something like that. The other ones, they're about the same. It depends, because we have more traffic officers sometimes than we did the year before. But you always have that one motorist, or those motorists that just want to get to point A to point B. I won't get caught. The ones that do get caught, then the repercussions fall on the points, and then hopefully they slow down. But I hate to say it, I'm going to be in business for a while as a traffic officer. If they can get that extra speed to get there and a little faster, they're going to try it. But we'll be out there to stop them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We have a question from a neighbor, Miss Boris. You're up.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can.
I can.
Yeah, thank you for your report. I just want to say that Ward Circle is still, I've seen so many people go through not just amber lights, red lights, and making turns when it's clear that they should not be making turns. So I don't know what more can be done with that. I also have to say that the lights aren't synced when I'm walking or riding my bike around. You have to wait for one light. I don't know if anything more can be done with that. But the cars are still, the drivers are, there are still many crazy drivers around there. So just wanted to add that.
Well, thank you. And I will say that DDOT did a great job out there redesigning, and those traffic lights. Yes, when you go through there, sometimes you're gonna have to wait 2 cycles, unfortunately, for your bicycle. And motorists sometimes have to wait 2 cycles too. But it is working. Obviously, we like to see 0 violations out there. But there has been an improvement. And if you want to come to the meeting, I'll break down how many tickets I wrote out there for that. It's not as bad as it used to be, but yes, And I'll break it down like this in this perspective. 10 years ago, before they redesigned it, 5 years ago, if I would sit out there during 5 cycles, I would probably get 3 of those during that 5 cycles. So, 5 times it changes, 2 cycles, everybody would comply. The other 3, they wouldn't. Now it takes me about once out of every 5 to 6 cycles. And the number one offender or the excuse that I'm hearing from the offenders is, I was following my GPS, and the GPS does tell them to turn. And for those of you that use GPS, make sure you look around at the signs. Just don't focus in on that GPS. And it is also distracted driving, but GPS is the number one. But at the end of the day, who gets the ticket? But thank you. That was for bringing that up.
Thank you. I see no other questions, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you, Officer McElwee, for everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just, as I said, we're jumping back between 2 Zoom hearings, and Commander Savoy may pop in. I know she's in the other meeting. I just saw her on my other Zoom, so she may pop in. So if you see her, pick her up and take some questions. And I'm gonna try to hang out for a little bit and put that information in the chat room for the meeting. And with that said, everybody have a happy and great New Year.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we are moving on to our MOCR, Matthew Barclay. I see that he's here. This is our Mayor's Office of Community Relations.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope we are going to have a wonderful 2024. Announcements this week. Okay, wait on. My number is 202-340-7853, matthew.barclay@dc.gov. It's in the chat. I'm your MOCR for the ward. There's also another one of us, or another MOCR. His name is Theo Wren. He's my partner. So you can reach out to either of us, and we are happy to help you navigate any issue that you may have. Okay. So now on to the updates. This week, Mayor Bowser announced her task force for the Gallery Place in Chinatown. And you can learn more about that at bdowntown.dc.gov. And you can also let us know things that you think should be a priority in that downtown space, Gallery Place in Chinatown. So please check that website out, and thank you for your support on that. Also, this week, Mayor Bowser released the FY24 Green Book, which is a small business opportunity guide. This year's Green Book is the downtown edition, which particularly focuses on downtown's recovery and supporting our local businesses there. Each agency and office sets a yearly target on spending dedicated to local businesses, and the Green Book allows businesses to search for, identify, and bid on these opportunities by industry. You can go to dcgreenbook.com. Okay, next thing. We were expecting, we had inclement weather yesterday. And so in order for you to be up to date on all the weather alerts, please go to alert.dc.gov. If there's a snowstorm, anything like that, Mayor Bowser's district snow team will be out in force. I'll be on call for that. Any super inclement weather like the July 29th storm will be on call as well. So they're supporting. Very positive news this week as well. The Department of Forensic Sciences application for reaccreditation was approved. And so they will be supporting MPD investigations as we go forward in our number one priority of reducing crime in the district. So that's very positive. Wanted you guys to know about that. Another positive thing is FEMS Fire and EMS unveiled a new piece of equipment that can pump 1,500 gallons per minute of water. So improved fire safety for the district as well. Also very positive. This week, last week, Department of Human Services Director Laura Zeilinger released a following statement on the Give SNAP a Raise legislation. DHS will move forward with the implementation of the temporary local SNAP increase funded and Give SNAP a Raise. If you need any more information on that, I'd be happy to talk to you. Also, Christmas trees. So they will be collected. Please put them on the front of your house on the curb. They will be collected through March 2nd, 2024. If you put your tree out and in 7 days it hasn't been picked up, do a missed collection 311 request. Send me the 311 request, and then it should be picked up after 7 days. But it should be picked up within 7 days.
Can I just clarify this? So even though the collection is going through March 2nd, if I put out my tree today, it should be picked up within 7 days?
That is my current understanding.
Okay.
Yes. I could have completely misinterpreted that, but I'm pretty sure that is correct. Also, if you don't want to wait for a DPW, you can take it to Guy Mason Recreation Center, which is the closest one. You could also do Bryant Street or South Capitol Street. Leaf collection. We are in section B right now for the second pass. Yesterday, I did I drove through every road of section A to determine whether or not we had any further miscollections from the second pass. We did a pretty good job. There was one little block that was, it's already taken care of. So section B is the next 2 weeks, section C, and then section D. Y'all are section D. So I'll probably put on the listserv somewhere whenever that gets closer, if somebody already hasn't done that. You can go to dpw.dc.gov to see that progress. That's all I have for today. Thank you all.
I just have a question about leaf collection. What happens if there's a big snowstorm before section D?
Well, a snowstorm, you probably wouldn't be able to pick up leaves in a snowstorm. So it would be delayed.
My prediction is that we won't get a second pickup. We didn't last year. And at the end of last season, I sent a note to the DPW director asking if they could shake up the order because section D gets missed every year, and got no response. So I was thrilled to see that we got picked up before Christmas this year for our first collection. That was, surprising.
So my beginning of my mokers a year ago, I would say that the leaves the leaf collection service is better this year than it was last year. And I still believe that. So I hope that I'm pretty sure that you will have a second pass.
Commissioner Elkins?
And hopefully by the end of January.
Matthew, as you look around to see how well they're doing on the leaf collection, I would commend to you to take a special look at the New Mexico bike lane. I think they missed it this time. I did report it, but it's particularly important because it's hard to ride a bike over wet leaves. Not that I know anything about that, but I can, from my youth, I can tell you that. So you might watch that. I think maybe they find it difficult to work in the bike lane, but it needs to be done.
I agree. Hello, Moker. Any update on Wilson Aquatic Center? I used to swim there regularly. I do not have any update on Wilson at this moment.
That was actually going to be one of my questions, Matthew. This has come up from several of my constituents. We are sort of back into the same problem that we had with the last time Wilson was closed. It's closed. Nobody can tell us when it's going to open again, and nobody across the various DC agencies seems to know who's in charge. There, at last count, was not what I would call a cross-agency project manager. So if you can escalate that.
It would be DGS and DPR. DGS would be the implementer of the
So
DPR
I talked to DGS, DPR, and Department of Health, and they all pointed fingers at the other, saying, we're waiting until DGS gets the part. We're waiting until DOH tells us it's healthy, that the conditions are right. We're waiting for, well, DPR, they're sort of stuck in the middle. I don't blame them, actually.
Yeah. I will certainly give you an update when I have one, and I could, escalate the fact that people are continuing to ask about it, and probably should, give as best an answer as we can.
Because we're into, I think, more than 2 months now of it being closed, right? Did somebody will have to keep me honest here, but I
it's
think it
longer
closed.
than it was
Did-
like early summer.
Then it reopened for a while and
It
then
did
it
reopen,
closed
yeah,
again. Yeah. So I think it
Yeah.
closed again in November, if I'm remembering correctly.
If there's no other commissioners,
And that was due to air quality.
Yeah.
Ms. Boris.
I just wanted to, thank you. I just wanted to second what Chuck said about the bicycle lane. I used it just today. There's a lot, besides a lot of leaves that were wet, there's a lot of debris, branches,
Mhm.
even a little dead bird. It's,
Aw.
you cannot ride going south in the right-hand lane. You have to be on the other side. Luckily, nobody was coming, so I could avoid it.
Mhm.
But those wet leaves are very slippery, and I use my bike a lot.
Mhm.
Unlike Chuck.
I hear you. I'm a biker as well, and I bike in Mexico all the time. So I'm definitely aware of your concerns. I suggested some things to DPW regarding that, but we'll see if they consider them. I did learn that DPW does the residential bike lanes, and DDOT is responsible for the commercial ones, which is fascinating.
So is that
But
considered?
this one would be residential because it's on the residential side.
And who's responsible for that? Who is?
Department of Public Works.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. I see no other hands raised, so we're going to let you go. Thank you, Mr. Barclay.
Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Up next, we're going to get a update from Councilmember Fruman's office with a new staff member there, Taylor Cogan, I believe.
Yep.
I think you're the new communications director, taking the place of Christian Damiana. Don't know if you know, he used to be a commissioner at ANC3D. So welcome.
Thank you very much. So I'll put my contact information in the chat. I'm on day 5, so I ask for your grace and patience as I go through things. I'll try to keep it brief. I know you guys have plenty to do. First up, the main thing is that we have a public safety forum coming up next Wednesday. That'll be at Cleveland Park Library at 6 p.m. We also have a virtual component. I'm putting it in the chat so that you have all the information on that, but we have a number of people coming. Obviously, the council member will be there along with MPD Chief Pamela A. Smith, U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves, U.S. General Brian Schwab, and the Office of Unified Communications Director Heather McGaffin. So it should be an important time for us all to come together. It'll be totally accessible for questions. If you have questions ahead of time, you can send them to us or ask them there in person. And then also, budget season is upon us, so we are asking for everyone's priorities in the FY25 budget. I'm sending another link to that information too. You can email our office, you can call our office. We're also having a virtual listening session. They did this last year on a Saturday morning on the 20th. Log in over Zoom and voice your concerns directly, your priorities directly to the council member. And let me see what's next on my list. Performance oversight hearings begin January 18th. The council members sent everyone, all the commissioners, information on that. But basically, asking for feedbacks on things that you would like to see included in those questions to the boards. So hopefully you all have information on that. If you need any further details, feel free to reach out to me. And then honestly, I have a list of things, but they kind of seem outdated. So if there's anything, I don't know what was covered the last meeting is what my concern is here. So if you have any questions about anything specific, I'm happy to answer them. I will echo that I don't have any new information on the aquatic center. I used to live really close to that aquatic center, so I've been asking about it myself for quite some time. But the latest update that our office has is from December 1st. And our team in constituent services, they asked DPR again for any kind of update, and they still didn't have anything. So we're pressing them as well. But that's what I have on that.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions? Welcome to the Freeman team.
Thank you.
I see no hands raised from the public. So can we assume that you'll be assigned to ANC3D?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to vote on our calendar at the end of the night. I'll make sure you get a schedule.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. It's good to see you, Ms. Cogan.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hey, Trisha,
Yes,
can I say something about Wilson Aquatics?
yes.
So, like, it's gonna be fixed as quickly as possible. Just so everybody knows that it is a priority. It's not like DGS is just dragging feet. It's, it's been a complicated fix, and so it is being fixed as quickly as possible.
Okay, they're working on it. Thank you. I do not see Christian Pinheiro here from DDOT, but I don't think we have anything pressing for him at the moment, except for clearing the New Mexico Avenue bike lanes. We are moving on to our local institutions. Is Kevin Days here from GW?
Can I just interrupt and say again, we have a lot of issues on New Mexico Avenue that his office still hasn't addressed. And emails are going back and forth from the residents constantly. DDOT really made a mess of New Mexico Avenue, and it's dangerous.
We can follow up with Mr. Pinheiro on that for sure, because I'm also a biker on there. I do not see.
It's not just biking; it's coming out of New Mexico Embassy Park Drive. The lines. Well, I don't want to waste time with it because he knows all about it. Christian knows all about it.
Okay, we'll follow up. Thank you. I do not see Kevin Days. Is Gwen?
I am in fact here.
Oh, you are. Hi, I didn't see you in the thing. Hello, how are you? Do you have an?
I joined late. I
today?
apologize. I'm doing
Okay.
well. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes.
It's nice to be back with you, even if it's just virtually. I have a very brief update, and then I will get out of your way so you can carry on with your very packed agenda. As you know, the campus passed its campus plan for the Mount Vernon campus, and as a part of that campus plan, we have quarterly meetings where we give updates on what's going on campus and what the implementation of any of the projects that we have as part of our campus plan. Well, our next quarterly meeting is scheduled for next Thursday at 7 p.m. And I want to encourage folks, the university will be doing an update on some project that it's about to start. And we want to make sure that people are available and people are notified and hear about that. So I will drop the link in the chat feature. We want community members to come and hear the update. We'll be doing an update at our quarterly meeting, and then we'll be asking for time on next month's agenda at the ANC meeting to do a presentation on that project. So that's my major update, other than wishing everyone a happy new year and hoping people are staying safe and warm in this winter. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
I will leave time on the next agenda for that presentation. Does anyone have any questions? All right, and I'm assuming that you all are responsible for notifying the immediate neighbors.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll send out. There's a newsletter that we send out, and I'll send information. Do you guys have a newsletter that you send to your, like a listserv or anything, an electronic listserv?
We do. We use the local listservs, the Palisades, FCCA, Nextdoor.
So Trisha, I may reach out to you because I want to make sure we get the word around, and the university has not been successful to access those local listservs. So I'll chat with you.
Well,
Kevin, this is Marilyn Nowak. If you send me an email, I can get you onto that list, onto the Palisades listserv.
Yeah. Happy to do that. And if there are any other local ones, please, I'll send, please let me know, and I'll send my contact information, try to get on.
Yeah, when you shoot me a note about Palisades, I'll give you the addresses for the other ones. They're actually a little bit easier to post to. They're not moderated. Palisades is moderated, so.
Great. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And then I think I see Gwen Coleman is here with AU.
Yes, there she is.
Hi, how are you? I just want to introduce you as the new liaison. Mr. Peterson has gone, and Ms. Coleman is here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're stepping in on an interim basis. Thank you for that. So just a couple updates from American, and apologies if there's any noise. It got noisier than I thought it would in this area. But we are nearing substantial completion of our Jacobs Field sound barrier wall. Beginning tomorrow, we'll be taking down a temporary fence. So very happy to see how construction has continued on that project. We're excited to get to the near end of that construction. We are moving on with a outreach program with our Meltzer scan project. So we'll be sending out a snail mail letter to the residents that live closest to that area, and any other continued outreach. It's been in our newsletter. We'll continue to do some online outreach as well. So that is still coming around as we start looking towards Meltzer. We are actively following up on some of the concerns that were brought up at our community liaison committee meeting. So emailing and working with a couple community members on things that were brought up, such as parking in the neighborhood. And then our last one is that students will be coming back throughout the weekend, as classes will start at AU on January 16th, I believe.
Great. I see a question from Ms. Gates. Ms. Gates, you're up if you want to unmute.
Thank you, Trisha. Is there any update on the proposal by Wesley Seminary to build a dormitory for American University students? Has American made any, AU made any decisions on that, or are they continuing to have no comment?
Yeah, so I am on day 6 of the job. So as far as I am aware, there has been no change, no updates. But I'll have a few meetings later on this week. But as I'm aware of right now, there are no additional updates to that.
Thank you.
No problem.
I just have one question. Along, I think it's Rockwood, is the pit where the Army Corps of Engineers are doing that remediation of the munitions dump or whatever it is. Do we know if anything has started there again?
We had a website where we were updating those on there. If I can find the link, I will drop it in the chat.
Okay.
So I will search a little bit. And if there's not any other updates, I'll take that point and follow up with you. I'll follow up with everyone here if there's any other substantial updates. But there was a website that they were updating. Let me see.
I check it out. I haven't checked it in a while, but
let me check on that. But if not, I'll follow up with anything else that I hear.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yes.
At the last RAB meeting, there was no mention of any activity at Lot 18, which is the area you're referencing. There is construction at the old security building, and maybe that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell sometimes what's the university and what's the Army Corps. But I thought that they were doing something this year, and I just didn't know. I need to look at the website because that's my SMD.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I can help you though, give me a call.
I will. Thank you. Okay, are there any other, raise your hand if you're here from another institution that I did not call on, but we are moving into commissioner updates. I'm going to go.
Trisha.
Yes.
Apologies. Do you mind if I just give a quick update?
Oh, yes. Mr. Peterson, Georgetown hasn't been here in a while. So, welcome.
Well, we're gonna start to change that, as you know. So most of you may remember me from American University. I recently transitioned to Georgetown University as their associate VP for community engagement and local government affairs. My updates are brief. We had our first day of school today. So students are back, our helpline is active, the Office of Neighborhood Life is active as well. And we finished up last semester successfully completing our compliance season. So we have filed our annual campus plan compliance report that's prepared by GU and the Medical Surgical Pavilion compliance report that's prepared by them. And those have been submitted to the Zoning Commission on November 30th. We've also done our fall 2023 enrollment and housing report. That was also submitted to the zoning administrator in December. And our annual GU and MedStar transportation performance monitoring study, those have been submitted to DDOT in December as well. So we are in full compliance and ready to go.
Commissioner Simkowitz, do you have a question?
Welcome home, Mr. Peterson. I've gotten numerous calls and emails from my constituents who are so happy that you're back.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Commissioner.
Good to see you.
Good
Thank
to see
you.
you.
All right, we are a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to move on. Commissioner updates. How about you? Should we start in reverse order this time? Commissioner Simkowitz, are you ready to go first? That's 07?
Yeah. I'm not going to bore everybody with crime details. They were bad last year, but there is some improvement hopefully coming. Mayor Bowser has done a lot of work. So has Council Member Brooke Pinto. She's the council member for Ward 2. We've been supported in this effort by our council person, Matt Freeman. So I thank him for that. Commissioner Elkins did a great job on our priorities list, including crime this year. So hopefully we will be in a better state this time next year and have a productive and safe 2024. The only update I have is that Mayor Bowser will be visiting the FCCA meeting on Wednesday, February 21st at 6:30 p.m. at the Hardy Rec Center. And a formal announcement will be made by FCCA soon, but I wanted to let everybody know to put that on their calendar.
Thank you. That's exciting. Commissioner Nowak, 06.
I only have one brief one, and that is for any of the members of the public who may be interested in the My School DC lottery for placement in an out-of-boundary DC public school or charter schools. That lottery slot closes on February 1st, I believe. We won't meet again before then, so I wanted to highlight that. You can get all of the details on the My School DC webpage, and it's I encourage you to do that. We have students from the neighborhood who are in our excellent charter and magnet schools throughout the district. So if that's of interest to you, please avail yourself of it.
Thank you. Up next is Commissioner Horn, 05.
I've got nothing that's not already on the agenda.
Great. Commissioner Davis, 04.
All right. Likewise with Commissioner Horn, I've got quite a few under the official actions. So I'll just save my discussion for that portion of the meeting.
So I'm 03, and I just wanted to give everyone an update on what Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Horn.
Commissioner, I'm 03.
You're 03, I'm 02. So.
You can go there. I mean, I don't really have anything. I was gonna highlight the public safety forum again. You can do it at Cleveland Park, that's where they're meeting, but there's also oh wait, I put the link in wrong. Wow, that's embarrassing. There's also an option to do it by Zoom, and Matt Freeman will be there, and the police chief will be there, and OUC and AG and all of that. So please show up if you're concerned about crime in the city. So there's the correct link. Now, Trisha.
Sorry. Quentin is 03, I'm 02. So I also see a neighbor here, so I may call on him, but if the commission recalls that we were looking at a property at 5510 Sherrier Place, where the builder had torn down a house that was designated as an addition renovation. We have a little update. Immediately after that, this happened in July. They we called it in, they put a stop work order on it. ANC3D sent a letter to the Department of Buildings asking them to make sure that the side setback, rear setback, and all of that has been brought up to the current standards instead of grandfathering in those aspects of the new build. I did learn some good news today from the builder and the owner that the house has been redesigned to have 8-foot side setbacks on both sides. And right now there's no plan to do that rear ADU. Herein lies the problem. The project has been abandoned essentially for the last 6 months, and we've had a tremendous amount of rain, and the site is now completely unsafe. And I'm going to give the neighbor, Mr. Cunningham, a minute to describe what's there. But we did learn from the builder today that the Department of Buildings is doing the right thing, and they are requiring the builder, while he waits for his raise permit and his building permit, to fill the site back in with dirt. And it seems to me that he's got some dirt on site that he's going to push in there, and then the city is going to come in and do the rest and charge him. I think that this is the city taking our concerns about this addition / renovation versus a raise very, very seriously. But I wanted to give Mr. Cunningham, because I know he's been waiting a minute, to just talk about the situation.
Tricia, thank you very much. And I'm no problem waiting. It's been extremely informative tonight. And I just want to commend you and the others for your tireless work in this regard. As you said, you sprung into action and you got the city, in my opinion, to really come together on this in a way that's been extraordinarily impressive to me as a neighbor nearby this lot next door to us, having seen this, progress over the last, or excuse me, lack of progress over the last 6 months. 5510 Sherrier Place was a vacant property for a vacant home for the better part of 4 years. Upon the owner getting that property designated vacant after having claimed a homestead deduction, interestingly enough, at the same time as living in DC somewhere else, they decided to sell the property to a developer. Property was sold to a developer, and as you said, Tricia, the developer applied for a remodel, or I guess a reconstruction permit, and actually raised the house. You didn't say the words illegal construction, but I will. It was illegal construction straight up. And so with your help and others bringing this to light, the city, this developer was unable to abuse the process and abuse the system to his benefit, which, in many respects would have been, would have posed some severe challenges for the neighbors nearby. Subsequent, the city stepping in for the last 6 months, the owner and developer of the lot, I think, was really sort of, thumbing his nose at the neighbors who got involved in this and just let the site go. It's a blighted piece of property right now. It has rebar sticking up out of the ground and a makeshift fence going around it. And I think we and many others are thrilled that the developer is going to be required to fill in the hole, which will preserve the walls surrounding it, which are eroding and falling apart right now, until the appropriate permits are obtained. It's also, I believe, our hope in the surrounding neighbors of this lot that once the dirt is filled in, the hole is filled in, that the city and others can force the developer to make this look a little less like a war zone and a little more like a construction site. It's a blighted area. It's an eyesore to a beautiful neighborhood, and it shouldn't have to be like this, especially given that the developer lives on Potomac Avenue 2 blocks away from us. So it's, if he doesn't do it himself, I think our hope and others is that the city, and maybe with your help too, will help encourage him to make this look right. Thank you very much again for all your help and your leadership, Tricia.
Thank you also for your participation in this whole ordeal, and all the commissioners who worked really hard on this. Thank you. That leaves you, Commissioner Elkins, for your update.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, the Transportation Committee will meet this month on the 18th at 1 o'clock by way of Zoom. And as usual, residents are welcome to come. I think we're still working on the agenda, but I think based on whatever we come out with in terms of priorities tonight, I think there's going to be some work that the Transportation Committee will want to jump into. So we'll see. how that develops. I just also, if Ms. Boris is still here, just to assure her that I've been actively, as she has, working with the Department of Transportation to try to make sure that not only do they work on the problem that she mentioned, specifically the Embassy Park exit, which is dangerous because of where they put the parking space, but also the crosswalk that I presented on last time. You may remember, we wrote to the director and said, please be ready to help your staff if they run into red tape. I've now concluded that the red tape is flowing. Unfortunately, the bicycle person who's in charge of this is off at a training course, but he'll be back on Friday. I hope to get some of this red tape untied. And if I from the outside can't do it, I'm hoping the director will intervene and do that. It's ridiculous to have children put at risk on that crosswalk. And as Ms. Boris says, the people coming out of Embassy Park should not be at risk just driving out of their residences. So that's working. And finally, with regard to Mr. Cunningham, and I say his comments, I want to just say generally about vacant properties, either vacant lots or vacant buildings. I'm on a citywide work group that's working on this, so I can tell you that the Vacant and Blighted Properties Program in DOB is much more active at this point, has strong support from the management. And for instance, if you know of any property that's vacant, at this point, why don't you bring it to my attention? I can give you some, I won't take the time now, advise you about what you can do. And secondly, with regard to Mr. Cunningham's concern about the war zone, it's possible that the Vacant and Blighted Properties Program might help in that regard. So, and it's separate from, or it's part of the same department, but it's separate from the construction permitting people. So I'll be glad to help to see if there's anything that they could do to try to clean that place up. So that's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. All right. Are there anyone else from the community who has a concern that that's not already on the agenda that they would like to share with us? You're welcome to raise your hand as we move on. Okay, our first item for our discussions, it's actually our only discussion today, is a presentation on the MacArthur Apartments above Black Coffee. Brad, I am going to have you call on Lee Templin, and hopefully she can tell you who else is here. They will likely need to share a presentation. And if you would like to unpin or unspotlight the commission while they give their presentation, everyone in the audience, to give you a refresh, there is a proposal to build apartments above Black Coffee, the Cafe Vino space, and Dodge Chrome. The ANC voted on a particular project, and before it went before the Board of Zoning Adjustment, the zoning administrator came back and said, no, this project requires more parking. And so we have a presentation tonight on what that new design is, and we're all excited to see it. And we'll have an opportunity to answer questions, but the commission is not voting on anything here, but we're hoping to see what the changes are and what exactly the relief that they are going to be asking for before the BZA. And take it away, Ms. Templin.
Thanks very much. And can you promote Will Zide as well? He's our transportation consultant from Grove Slade.
The video needs to be on in order to come up, but then I can promote him.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, great. Thanks. I'll just go ahead and get started, and I will share my screen. Oh, I still don't have ability to share my screen, looks like.
You're all set.
Okay. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Good evening. My name is Lee Templin of Goulston and Storrs Land Use Council for the applicant. We're here today to update the ANC on the project proposed for 4885 MacArthur Boulevard. As you might recall, our BZA hearing was scheduled for October 25th. However, we received a determination from the zoning administrator on the evening of October 23rd that reversed a determination from the prior zoning administrator that entirely changed how the zoning regulations applied to the project and the relief required. So we had to postpone the hearing again. Our new hearing date is February 14th, and we're here tonight just to give a brief update on the plans. So there are 3 changes to the plans. First, there will be 2 additional residential units for a total of 21 units. Let me just scroll down to the parking plan. There will be 1 additional parking space for a total of 11 zoning spaces. As a side note, the required number of parking spaces is 10, so we will be providing 1 in excess of the required. And finally, the former Cafe Vino space will become residential amenity space. The Black Coffee space will remain restaurant use, and the Dodge Chrome space will convert to restaurant use when they vacate. We are asking for the same relief from the rear yard requirements and from the 20-foot setback for 3 of the parking spaces. And we are withdrawing the loading relief because the revised retail area no longer triggers loading. However, we are keeping the on-street loading space on MacArthur Boulevard, as this will formalize the existing practice, and DDOT has expressed a desire for on-street parking for this project. As a reminder, that space will convert to on-street parking after hours. We believe the project will be a wonderful addition to Ward 3 with new residential units, including affordable units, and an enhanced ground floor that will activate MacArthur. We will continue to commit to the 4 conditions we previously agreed to with the ANC. First, that apartment tenants will be restricted from eligibility for a residential parking permit. Second, that we will seek to lease the 2 retail spaces to restaurants. Once Dodge Chrome vacates, we'll prioritize that space for restaurant use. Third, the applicant will donate $10,000 for improvements to the triangle of that sits at MacArthur and V Street. And fourth, construction crews will use off-site parking during construction. Because we are agreeing to these conditions and we're not adding any new relief, the ANC doesn't need to take another vote, but we wanted to let the community know about the changes, and we have the whole project team here tonight to answer any questions.
All right, I think that we should turn off the slides with the knowledge that we will probably want to pull them up occasionally, but I'm going to quickly go to questions. Commissioner Elkins.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to ask some questions and make a statement about this. I was not at the October meeting. I was off on vacation, and I apologize to the applicant that I'm sort of coming in late here. But first of all, these apartments are going to have kitchens, is that right?
Yes, they will. And Charles can kind of speak to.
Where and how do you expect them to buy any food to put on the table? How are they going to shop? I mean, they're not going to eat out every day, I assume, so they're going to cook. Where are they going to shop?
You mean grocery stores?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, grocery stores.
I'm not familiar with the nearest grocery store. We have, if you mean in terms of transportation,
yes.
We're also providing 8 short-term bike parking spaces and 7 long-term bike parking spaces.
Well, I think you're only providing 2 cars, is that right? 2 zip cars or whatever. Then, so they're, well, let me just tell you, I did look on Google Maps today and to sort of ask myself, if I were living there, where would I go shopping? One place is Sagamore Safeway. It's a 30 to 50 minute bus ride, depending if you can make the connection between the 2 buses. It's 2.7 miles, so I don't think people will walk. It would be an 1-hour walk, according to Google, each way. Bicycling is 15 minutes, and I'm not sure how you'd carry the groceries back on your bicycle unless you went every day. Groceries are heavy. Then I looked at the Safeway on Wisconsin. It's 2.3 miles. The bus takes 38 minutes if you're lucky to catch the 3 buses you have to take in order to get there. To walk there, it's 43 minutes, and to bike there, it's 15 to 20 minutes. Both of these bike trips to both of these Safeways is really not very safe if I may say so, because it's on MacArthur Boulevard. In essence, I conclude from this that people need a car. I don't think my neighbors would disagree that this is sort of a transportation desert there on MacArthur Boulevard. No, I know your transportation report says otherwise. Back when the Safeway was there in what I call downtown Palisades, we had the Safeway lot. And a lot of people parked in that parking lot to go to the various stores that are nearby. And the facility itself that's being built there has a parking garage, but we made a strong case to Trammell Crow that they needed to provide some parking spaces to make up for that Safeway parking for the people who were using the businesses there across from your proposed facility. And they did agree to that, and they're building a parking lot. The building that you're tearing down has 15 parking spaces, or 17, I think, officially. I went up there today to try to park. Of course, all the places were taken. There were 15 cars there. All those parking spaces are going away, and then you're bringing in 21 units of living. If I could ask Bradley to bring up my first slide here. I went down there today just to make sure I really am familiar with what I'm calling the Palisades downtown. We have 24 local businesses, which I think will be impacted by the lack of parking, which is going to be severely, the parking will be decreased by your activity. We have 5 restaurants. We have these major destinations of the drugstore, the liquor store, the dentist, the animal hospital, Diva Dogs, and the cleaners. All of these depend on walk-in business. This is not the place where you order up on the internet and talk to people on the phone. These are walk-in businesses. Bradley, next slide. And we have strength training. You got to come there to do that. Art and frame, the consignment shop, get your nails worked on. Catering, maybe you could talk to them on the phone, maybe the architects as well. But if you want to go to the Italian market, you got to go. And then 6 additional businesses. Basically, oh, and I forgot to mention the library. They do have a parking lot, but if they have a meeting at night, like we're going to have on the 30th of January, there's not enough parking for that. Bradley, could you bring up the next slide? No, the next one. I'm sorry. I guess they're in the wrong order. There's a map. Thanks. This is the map from your transportation report. My question is, will people walk to these businesses? These businesses need the walk-in business. Are the people going to walk there? And the answer, I think, is some will. If you, I don't know what the right number is, but maybe if you live half a mile from this downtown, so to speak, you might walk if you didn't have to carry anything back. But take a look at this map. All the red are streets that are areas where there are no sidewalks. And the yellow is where the sidewalk doesn't meet standards. That's right across from your facility. It's a big yellow area. But more importantly, let's say you want to go to one of these 5 restaurants at night. Are you going to walk to that restaurant? I don't think so. Are you going to walk back over these streets that have no sidewalks at night in the middle of the street? I would not advise it. So some people will walk, but there are a number of people actually who use these businesses who actually live further away than they could walk. And I'm thinking about some of my constituents who live over near Key School on, let's say, University Terrace. they're 0.7 miles away, 17-minute walk. I don't think most of them will do that. So they're going to have to drive. So we need to accommodate, if we want these businesses to stay here, we need to find places for people to park. And if people are not coming in these businesses, they're not going to stay there. Bradley, if you bring up the other piece that I think we went to, this is from your transportation report, and I'll just end with this. And I'm going through this because I want you to know my concerns rather than you finding out about my concerns in February. You say your contractor said there are adequate on-street parking at present within the area surrounding the site to support the requested parking relief. Well, I went there today. I had to park in that loading zone place, and hope is done. It's illegal. I parked there. I took out my old ANC parking pass and hoped nobody would give me a ticket. I think every neighbor would tell you this is not a true statement. There is not adequate. That was the only parking place anywhere near those businesses. Every other one was taken. And then it says here, due to the project's low vehicular trip impact of 4 net new trips, 1 inbound and 3 outbound in the AM peak hour, and 4 net new trips inbound and 1 outbound in the PM, the project's not expected to have an impact. Well, you haven't accommodated the fact that I really would have to argue that a lot of these residents in this building are going to have a car. And you have not provided parking spaces for all of them that have it. So and you're going to charge them anyway. You're going to charge them market rate, as you should. So they're going to be parking on the street. So that's another percentage, and I don't know what it is, of the 22 units are going to have a car. We don't have parking spaces now. If you're wiping out 15 to 17, and you're not providing for the 22. Now, I know that what you're doing is legally allowed under the zoning rules, but those are citywide rules, and they really don't fit this particular situation where we want to save these businesses. And I think that your facility, not because you intend this, but will in fact have an adverse impact on these businesses. And for that reason, I think ANC should ask the BZA to deny your application. And as I said, I'm going through all this. I know you didn't expect me to make a presentation. I decided today I owed it to you, since I wasn't here in October, to tell you why I am strongly opposed to this project. Thank you. Brady, you can take down the slides.
Thank you. And I will just say, we completely appreciate and understand the concern and the demand for parking in the area. We know it is an issue. The vision for the project, however, simply is not providing an abundance of parking. The vision is for housing. And as I'm sure everyone is aware, both the district and Ward 3 is suffering a housing crisis at the moment. And this project will add not only new housing, but approximately 3 new affordable units. Just as a point of reference, the Rock Creek West planning area, which extends from the Palisades up to Chevy Chase and to Woodley Park to the east, has only met 4.7% of its target for new affordable units since 2019. That target is meant to be met by 2025. And so these new units will help contribute to meeting that target. So we really entirely understand the need for parking in this area, but as a policy matter, we chose to favor housing over parking. The site is it's very small and awkwardly shaped, and the design tries to optimize the productive use. And we also are not only meeting, but we are exceeding the zoning requirement for parking, and we have the 7 long-term and 8 short-term bike parking spaces. I'll turn it over to Will if he wants to speak at all to the transportation statement comments in particular.
I can just answer a few of those questions. One thing to know, we do recognize, right, the traditional grocery stores are a fair amount away from this site. I will know there's the CVS, and one thing that we've seen that has taken a dramatic uptick since COVID and the pandemic is grocery delivery. Not only has it become more common, but it's more available from the operators. I know myself, my wife and I hardly ever have time to go anymore. We get groceries delivered probably 4 out of the 5 times we buy groceries now. So, having said that, when you build residential buildings without parking, you're really catering to a specific user. What we don't really see with residential is people, moving into an apartment without a secured parking space and just hoping to be able to park in the neighborhood nearby to find spaces at night. It's not as common. Usually if somebody has a car and they need a parking space, they find a building that has parking available. So there are different needs. People have different tolerances for biking, walking, etc. And I think one of our baseline assumptions is this building will that's the customer that it will draw. It won't draw the customer that needs 2 cars or 1 car parking space. Just to clarify on the data. So when we initially came in with this, with DDOT, we were seeking parking relief at the beginning, which was the reason that we did a parking occupancy study. It's not a standard study that we would do for a project, but whenever you're seeking relief for 5 or more spaces, DDOT does require it. So what DDOT wants to see is they want to see a 2-block radius from the site. So we got 2 blocks in each direction. And they want to see how much of that parking is occupied during peak periods. So for this site, we went a little more than we usually do. We studied a weekday, a Saturday, and a Sunday to look at the parking, because we understand on weekends it gets a little busier since we're right next to the retail along MacArthur. So we looked at all those periods, and what we saw in that 2-block radius was on the weekday evening, it was the most occupied at 70%. And then during the weekend days, it was around 50%. And that is of about 440 valid parking spaces. So what is literally a parking space or an area that is very clearly defined as parking being allowed. So there is parking, I understand, probably not really close by, but if somebody came to visit or something like that, they could probably find a space somewhere nearby within walking distance. And so those are the factors that went into that study, just so you have all of the information.
I'm just going to jump in here to let people know if you've put a question in the chat, we'll make sure it gets answered as I call on people. I just wanted to make sure. Could I, because we're talking about parking, could you please go over the number of spots? Because I know some count as rideshare, because you said there's a total of 11.
Oh, sure. So,
and these will these will all be on the existing parking deck, correct? So what is going to exactly remain?
There will be, so the way zoning works, right, is you can provide, if you provide a car share space, it counts as 3 zoning spaces. So we are providing 2 car share spaces that will count as 6 zoning spaces. And then we are providing 5 additional parking spaces. So 7 physical spaces, Leon, I think I'm stating that correctly here. 7 physical spaces that count as 11. And when you have this low of a parking number, right, those 2 car share spaces do actually serve a really good purpose as a car share space. It's a little bit different when you get into a bigger building, you got a whole bunch of spaces and you got 2, they don't have as big of an impact. But when you have a building that's relying on a really reduced parking rate, people do use the car share service on site.
And will that parking garage still be open to, is it an open lot essentially?
Will it be?
No, so the parking will be restricted to the residents, and that's for security reasons because the parking spaces are on the same level as residential units.
And with that, it still counts as rideshare for the zoning regs?
Yes, yeah.
Are any of these spaces for the retail?
It kind of comes into a total count, between the different uses, but they will all be used for the residential uses of the property.
So they're not requiring any parking for the retail?
The retail technically triggers it, but the parking, it can be used by either use.
Yeah. Generally, you're required to park the total requirement, but not necessarily assign the spaces out to the use.
And one of those will be designated as handicap.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Horn, I saw your hand up next. You're on.
I wanted to change the subject to Dodge Chrome. So maybe everyone who wants to talk about parking and so forth should speak first and come back to me.
Commissioner Simkowitz, were you on parking?
Yeah. So, Ms. Templin, you and I have had numerous discussions on this. I've always told you I hated this project. I think it stinks. However, you came back with an accommodation that if you live in this building, you cannot get a RPP. Can you explain how the RPP program works for everybody that doesn't know?
Yeah, so I can run through that. So the RPP, so a lot of the streets around this area, right? You can search online. If you search just like RPP, District of Columbia, they'll come up with like some nice GIF maps. You can go in. There will be lines on streets. If there is a line on the street, that means that street is eligible to get an RPP permit. Not that there is RPP restricted parking on that street, but that you're eligible for the permit. So the way that works is you go into the DMV to get that permit. They are going to punch in your address and it will tell them whether or not you are eligible to get an RPP permit to park in the ward. So we went to DDOT and had this, side of V Street, which interestingly in this case, we are like the only thing on that little tiny block, if you will, what we call a block face. It's the area between two streets on one side of the road. So we had this block face removed from RPP eligibility. So somebody can't, they can't lease a unit here with the expectation that they will be able to go get an RPP permit. They would have to really be just hoping they'll find a space every single time they come home. And what we see with that is people just generally don't rent in that building if that's their need.
Well, also they couldn't park during the day. Is that correct? They're limited to nighttime hours.
I think even an RPP you get 2 hours. It's like 2 hour parking unless you have an RPP permit. But correct, they would not be able to have their car there all day.
Thank you.
Commissioner Horn, did you have a comment on RPP?
But I thought that applied to V Street. You've now changed this to a MacArthur entrance. So that V Street thing, does that still apply?
It's going to be addressed off V, is what our understanding. The residential address will be off of V Street, and residential is the only thing that's ever eligible for an RPP permit. So the residents will have a V Street address on that block.
That's correct. There'll be entrances on both B Street and MacArthur. So it does not change the address or the RPP restriction.
Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt, do you have something that has to do with like parking, traffic, transportation?
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with some of Chuck's points, but I mean, my family doesn't have a car, and we get Amazon Fresh all the time, and the grocery like online delivery does work, and it is something that I think people who live here would be using. But I am concerned about the like employees at the businesses, because I know a couple of them. I know a couple of people who used to work at Vino do live kind of close, but I think a lot of the employees are coming from other places in DC further away or even outside of DC, and we don't like the D6 is not run very often. Have you talked to any of the businesses about how they're getting their employees and whether like losing this parking will affect their ability to have employees who run the business? And also, are you going to have new employees at the apartment complex that will need parking spots or need a way to get there?
So what I will say is that the Cafe Vino space, that the fact that will become residential amenity will reduce the retail demand for parking. In terms of how many Black Coffee or Dodge Chrome employees, park in the existing parking lot, I'm not personally aware. I don't know, Will or Rishi, if you have any information on that.
Commissioner Elkins, go ahead if you have something to add.
I had a question about the RPP. How many of the streets around this facility are in fact RPP at the present time?
That have the RPP restriction, so that you need a permit to park.
Yes.
Not exactly sure on that. There's no. I don't believe there is an online database that lets you just look at that, if you will. You gotta go out and drive the streets to see.
Very few of them are, and that would allow these residents to park there unless in fact we get them turned into RPP. And so I guess.
And there is an option right, as a neighborhood, you can petition. You have to have a certain threshold, I believe it's 50% of the residents agree. And you can't have your street converted. And so what this would do is this would guarantee that if you did experience issues in the future, that you could get that, and that these residents would not be able to obtain that permit.
Just one thing to make sure I was clear about this. We worked very hard with Trammell Crow to get something like 15 new parking spaces because we knew they were needed for those businesses. And by the fact that you're wiping out 15 or 17 on the top of your roof, you basically have obviated all that negotiation with Trammell Crow. You basically we're substituting Trammell Crow's parking lot now for yours, and it's already very tight, and now we're going to have the 22. So I was just trying to make that point.
Okay, I saw Miss Gates' hand up, so I am going to call on her, and then I'm going to go back to Commissioner Horn because I also see Miss Boyd. Go ahead, Miss Gates.
Thank you. To answer your question, Chuck, the majority of streets around this site have RPP. Ashby Street, I believe, is the only street that does not have it. And we have people on the street parking from the school, from the businesses. And so we're just sort of the catch-all. And right now, our street is under construction, as you know. So there are trucks parked on the street, and they continue down onto MacArthur Boulevard. But my question is really, I guess, to Lee, and it involves the zoning administrator and when she changed her mind about the zoning requirement that was in existence before you all bought the building.
Yes, is the question basically what her determination was?
Yes, and why she changed her mind?
Well, so she didn't change her mind. There was the prior zoning administrator, Matt LeGrant, before her. She reversed his determination. And our understanding and belief was that the project, because it will be one building permit for the project as a whole, it's basically, a whole new thing, that the entire project the 2016 zoning regulations should apply to it because it will be a new building permit that affects the existing ground floor, even though that structure will remain. Her interpretation, which reversed Matt LeGrant's determination, was that the 1958 regulations should apply to the existing retail that remains. And with that existing retail requirement, which was more burdensome, we would have had a 14 space requirement for the retail and a 19 space requirement overall. And just given the awkward size of the site, the grade change and the narrowness of it, it was, as I said, it was parking versus housing, and we decided that housing would be a priority.
Well, housing may be a financial priority. However, for the residents who live in this neighborhood, the density is becoming overwhelming. And so just dumping 14 more cars on the street has real impact, as well as the impact that it has for any of the retail businesses that have counted on those spaces. If you're going to use them and restrict them for residential, I'm just not quite sure how the scale isn't tipped in one direction, because you're coming in and taking parking that has been allocated for businesses.
Yes, well, I mean, we are meeting the zoning requirements for the minimum required parking. And this is simply the project that we are proposing.
And how are the businesses going to meet their requirements?
I think, I mean, they're with the new Balfour project nearby, I think there will be parking there. I'm not sure, Will, you can maybe speak to additional options.
I think that should be of great concern to the ANC to hear that we're suggesting Balfour take the excess parking from your building.
Well, I think as Lee mentioned, there's going to be one less retail space with less demand. And additionally, throughout the district, there's plenty of retail that essentially has no parking. There is metered parking nearby this site. So there are places that if you drive around, you may be able to find a spot, but the retail is just going to have to be more reliant on a no parking condition, really. And there are, different retail tenants that are better suited for that. There are certain types of retail you would not target.
Please listen carefully to this, because it really is going to have an impact on the community.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Gates, which segues into a question about the businesses. And I am going to turn it over to Commissioner Horn.
Thank you. Lee, we've been talking about this for a long time. It's been almost a year now. And I'm afraid that there is a misunderstanding that has been created about Dodge Chrome. When there were 3 spaces to be filled, we were interested in 2 restaurants. And further, we were told, I don't remember exactly how we were told, that Dodge Chrome actually wanted to leave, and so this was not a problem. But we don't want to force them out. They have been a great neighbor for, I think, decades, and we don't want to force them out. So I think that because of the 3 space to 2 space and who knows what else, there's been a misunderstanding. We don't want you to get rid of them in order to get a second restaurant.
That's very good to know the ANC and the community's feelings about that. The plan right now is not to push them out, but when in the future they vacate, to convert that to restaurant use. But and Rishi can speak to this a little bit right now, but there's not a plan to push them out.
Yeah, I echo Lee's comments. There's no plan to push them out. Actually, I spoke to Carol Boyd yesterday, and she would like to stay, but she also understood the situation that at the last meeting, the ANC was saying they want 2 restaurants. But it's good news to hear that the ANC is now saying that they would prefer if she stays.
Yes. And I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. I don't know how it happened.
No, that's good to know. Thank you for clarifying.
I would like to echo what Commissioner Horn said, and I would like to call on Ms. Boyd because she has her hand raised and she's here. Welcome, Ms. Boyd.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the last minute conversations and taking what I had to say in consideration. I actually wasn't aware. I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, but have our Dodge Chrome business both in Silver Spring with our main headquarters as far as business in Palisades. We've been there since 2010, but previously we took over the business from Tom Jacoby. He owned Palisades Imaging and Photo. And so we are kind of a longstanding institution in Palisades and have lots of clients. I received a phone call yesterday evening from Rishi, basically dropping the news to me that, and I'm assuming because he knew that I would probably catch wind, that all of a sudden Dodge Chrome was going away. by the new plans and by the fact that that middle area that Cafe Vino was in is now going to be a reception for the apartments. And my conversation with him was I was very calm. And maybe after this meeting and hearing about all the problems that we think are going to happen because of parking, it's maybe not as bad of a deal to not be part of that building as it was before. But I can tell you the comments about parking, I don't know where the truth is on that roof deck right now, Dodge Chrome by our lease has 3 spaces that are assigned to us. And anybody who's gone up on that roof and counted them, you will see the reserved Dodge Chrome spaces there. Our employees who try to use those spaces have a difficult time every day finding parking at 9 a.m. in the morning. So anybody who's saying that parking is not an issue, that's just not true. I mean, my employees get in a half an hour early so they can try to get use of a space reserved for us. That's the reality of it. Whether we end up staying there or not, our lease runs through May of 2025. I'm sure things will change again, or things will move around. You know, that's going to give us time to figure out whether we want to move somewhere else in the district, because we will maintain a location in DC. But we have clients coming in all the time asking us when we're leaving. And I'm like, I have never had a conversation with anybody, never was asked except by Rishi. And I've always been very clear to him that we wanted to stay at that location. I can't make him renew our lease when that time comes, but up until then, we had no plans ever of moving out of the location that we're in right now. So I just wanted to clarify that, because if somebody thinks that oh yeah, we're leaving, no problem, that's really not the truth of the situation. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I take a little responsibility. I think somewhere along the line, I had heard that when your lease ended that you were ready to go, but I would like to set for the record that that is not the case. And I think the community would like to see you there long-term. And I think we're willing, because the Cafe Vino space is no longer going to be there, we can adjust our, restaurant provision deal with the 2 restaurants. There was one other question in the chat that that someone asked. If someone has read the chat, and someone was asking again about rents, what your rent rate is going to be, and what your IZ housing rate will be. And for those in the who don't know what inclusionary zoning is, when you do housing here in the city requires you to do a certain amount of affordable units. It's called inclusionary zoning. And there's usually a rate at a 40% of the average median income, 60% average median income, 80%. If you could just speak to your affordable housing units and what your base rent is going to be.
Yeah, I don't think that the rates have been completely finalized yet. Charles or Rishi can speak to that. I will say that for the IZ, because these are rental units, they will be provided at 60% of the median family income.
Okay, thank you. And another question, which always comes up, is black coffee. And does this new plan change or add any insight into, if this were to be approved, how long black coffee would need to be shut down to build this project?
So our current estimate remains the same, a few weeks at the beginning for the underpinning and a few weeks at the end for mechanical tie-ins. That's obviously just an estimate. Nobody has a crystal ball. But Charles, my understanding is that remains the same with this new plan.
Right, it's the same. We haven't changed that.
Okay, unless another commissioner would like to chime in here, I feel like the ANC should reconsider this. we have our February 7th meeting, which would give us, barely time if we wanted to rediscuss, but we do not need to decide tonight, but let's all think about, we have already voted on all of these special exceptions, but obviously the project is different. I don't see any other questions. So I wanted to thank you all again for coming. And this is a big, big change for our neighborhood. So thank you for giving us the time that we feel this project deserves.
Madam, Chair, just to interrupt a second. Three of us, I think, did not vote at that meeting. So it's not like we voted unanimously and now we're reconsidering.
I would agree with that. And after chatting with some commissioners today, let's digest what we've seen. I am assuming now that this is, I'm going to post the slide deck to our local listserv, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Well, thanks so much for all of the feedback and appreciate the time to present.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, as noted at the beginning of our meeting, Mr. Derry Allen is in attendance, and I would like to, before we get to our official actions, to quickly hold elections, unless there's an objection. All right, Bradley, if you could call up Mr. Allen. Hello, how are you?
Good evening.
I'm officially turning the meeting over to you.
Okay, to run an election for a high office here. I was asked, since I'm not a member of the commission, to fulfill the role of running the election, which has to be run by somebody who's not a member. And I know that it's a dangerous role in public service these days to run elections, but I accept it anyway. There are 4 offices up for election this evening: chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. So I propose to just go through those one by one. And we'll start with chair. And what I'll do is, in each case, I'll ask for nominations, and then I will see if there's any discussion, and then we will have a roll call vote on each one of those. So to start with chair, are there any nominations for chair of ANC3D?
I'd like to nominate the current chair, Tricia Duncan. I think she's done a good job running our meetings, and I look forward to working with her in the future.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay. Is there any discussion on this between members of the commission?
Is Commissioner Nowak here?
So Commissioner Nowak is listening in, and she will be voting, but she cannot have her camera on at the moment.
Okay.
I would just like to say I accept this nomination, and I thank Commissioner Simkowitz for the nomination.
All right. Brad, do you want to call the roll?
Do that. 3D01.
Aye.
3D02.
Aye.
3D03.
Aye.
3D04.
Aye.
3D05.
Aye.
3D06.
Aye.
3D07.
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Well, congratulations, Ms. Duncan. Next, we have office of vice chair, and I would invite any nominations.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Horn.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there any discussion of this? Okay. Um, uh, should we call the roll again, Brad?
$3D01,
Aye.
$3D02,
Aye.
$3D03,
Aye.
$3D04,
Aye.
$3D05,
Aye.
$3D06,
Aye.
and $3D07.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Well, congratulations, Commissioner Horn. The third office is for treasurer, and I would invite any nominations.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Nowak.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay. Brad, you want to call the roll?
Yes, sir. 3D01,
Aye.
3D02,
Aye.
3D03,
Aye.
3D04,
Aye.
3D05,
Aye.
3D06,
Aye.
3D07. Unanimous.
Okay. Congratulations again. And finally, we have the office of secretary. Are there any nominations? Go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Davis.
Okay.
Okay.
I accept.
Are there any other nominations? Brad, would you like to call the roll?
3D01,
Aye.
3D02,
Aye.
3D03,
Aye.
3D04,
Aye.
3D05,
Aye.
3D06,
Aye.
3D07. You're muted, Commissioner Simkowitz.
Sorry about that. Aye.
That one is unanimous as well.
Well, congratulations to Commissioner Davis. Madam Chair, you have a complete set of officers, and I turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. It is always a pleasure working with you.
Well,
And we have
thank you.
a
You're
legitimate
welcome.
commission and all officers filled. Thank you for your help.
You're welcome.
Okay, I pride myself on moving through a meeting very quickly. So we are going to get right into it. The first item up is 2828 Hearst Terrace. I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Davis, and you can start with a motion and then we can get into discussion if you'd like.
Yeah, I guess, Brad, if you can pull up the letter just so we can all see it. It's in the shared folder for this meeting for January 10th.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Thank you. And just while he's doing that, just notice that we have two different addresses on Hearst Terrace and two different issues at hand, 2828 and 2835. The one we're talking about now is has to do with parking and permanent relief for a daycare there. And if everybody can see that. Have people had a chance to review this? I think it was posted last week.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. So the motion on the floor is to approve to to approve this relief request on the parking of the daycare center. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded. I found this very helpful last January or February. This same request, this is the Montessori that's across from Key School. They had requested this very same parking relief. They've gotten it all the time, but it essentially won't expire while the daycare is a daycare. And they've been operating with this relief for quite some time. This just prevents the applicant from having to return every 5 years. And we granted this to her other business on MacArthur Boulevard earlier this year. Are there any other questions from commissioners?
Wait,
right.
so this exception would remain as long as it remains a daycare? Is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the building changes, if it changes owners or something, they would have to come back.
Sure.
Yeah, well, this particular one is in R1B, so they have a special exception to operate there. It's a house. So
Okay,
yeah,
so that may answer my question. If someone else were to take over the business, would they need to seek a new exception, or would this convey?
I would like to call on the attorney here, Mr. Sullivan, if you could answer that for us.
Sure. If it's operated under the same conditions, yes, it would convey. But it's been operated by Heather for almost 40 years now. And I wanted to clarify, there's two areas of relief. There's relief for the daycare and the parking. And I don't know if the parking was needed before. It's just that they changed the daycare regs a little bit so that there's a minimum of one space, no matter how few staff you have. So just out of caution, OP didn't think we needed the relief, but I think we technically do, because we have one for the house and then one for the business. So
I will say I've spent many hours of my life on this street in this section, and even with the previous, running of the Montessori, I saw no issues at all. Are there any other questions? All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of approving this letter and sending it to the BZA? Aye, passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on. Also, the next BZA application for 2835 Hearst Terrace. Would you like to make a motion to start discussion, Commissioner Davis?
Sure. This one also, I guess, Brad, if you could pull up the letter for this one, just so we can review, and in case anybody didn't have a chance to look at it. Essentially, what has happened is it was the owner built an addition on the back of their house that went straight out the back, and their lot is kind of trapezoidal in shape. And so as and the plat is there too, if anybody needs to look at it, by going straight while everything else was kind of at an angle, they violated the side setback by just a few inches on either side because the lot is not square. And they've they've received verbal approval, and apparently they have written approval from their neighbors. So we've been reassured that it is not an issue. But this is something that was caught during the permit inspection that the inspector found. So
can we pull up the plat instead? It will be much more visually. Commissioner Simkowitz, do you have a question about this?
You want a motion on the table, right? I move this letter.
Second. So if I'm understanding you right, Commissioner Davis,
yeah,
it's hard to tell that
if you're not in a full screen, I would recommend going to full screen view if you can, and then you can kind of see the shape of the lot that they're on is kind of at an angle. It's
like a trapezoid.
Yeah, and Hearst is kind of on a curve at that point, and then the public alley on the back. So it's kind of I guess trapezoid is the right shape. And then the addition off the back where it says like 36.2 in width. And then the offset is 3.9 inches and 5 inches on one side, 5 feet, I'm sorry, on one side and 3.9 on the other.
Do they have
That's what
neighbors on both? Do they have neighbors on both sides?
I believe so, yes.
And have they spoken to the neighbors or gotten?
Yes, I understand there's been like verbal approval, and I asked them if it would be possible to have it in writing, and they said that wouldn't be a problem. But I don't have that in hand. I can get that. I mean, we can ask them for it. I don't know if they're here on the meeting tonight or not.
You can turn off the screen share, Brad, and I am once again, I believe Mr. Sullivan is the attorney representing the homeowner.
Yes,
Welcome
that's
back.
correct. Yeah, thank you. And the relief's just on the one side, on the bottom end of that. We meet the
Apologies for that,
requirement
yeah,
on the
it's
other
one
side. Yeah, and
Okay.
they got a permit for this, and they didn't realize that they shouldn't have gotten a permit until the wall check. And then so it's 1.1 foot short of the 5 feet. So, and it's just one story on that side.
And they did inform the neighbors that this is
Yes.
going on. Do any commissioners have any questions? All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of approving this letter to the BZA?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much for your time and your
you.
patience. This next item on the agenda is new to all the commissioners. So I am going to turn this over to the applicant here to give us just a few minutes of telling us what this business is, where it is. I was a little bit confused. And Commissioner Davis, would you like to introduce?
Sure.
Or, is that Miss Anjali? Is that who it is?
Yes, Anjali, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience, Anjali. I know this. We've our schedules got a little shifted around, and we had a lot of discussion tonight. So I appreciate your patience with this. Brad, we have the stack in the drive that maybe you could share the slides, so we can look at. And again, to the other commissioners, I apologize you didn't get these till this evening, but it should be pretty straightforward now. So now that that's up, I'll let Anjali take over from here.
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity. My name is Anjali Kumar, and I'm presenting this to get a letter of support from the ANC board. This is regarding an online business that we are trying to open. So it's a liquor delivery business. Can you go to the next slide, please? It's a liquor delivery business that we're trying to open in the DC area. It's going to be completely online. There's no retail happening here. And just a little bit of background about me. I am an IT professional. I'm working with Fannie Mae Company. I have almost about 10 years of experience managing all big IT projects. I've worked for US government as well, for HHS, CMS organizations. And I've managed their projects from the inception all the way to the end. So I feel being in the IT business, I thought this was the perfect way to open my own internet-based, technology-based business. What we are trying to do here is, like I said, this is the liquor delivery business, and the name is going to be Lord of the Drinks. And Boozewilla is an app. The website is going to go with Lord of the Drinks, and the app is going to go with Boozewilla. Why an online business? I'm going to quickly go over the next slide because I know we're already running late on the time. So why an online business? Over the last few years, we have seen the trend, especially after pandemic. People are more into getting deliveries, more into online kind of retail. And we've seen the growth, especially in the alcohol area. We've seen the growth for almost about 6.6%. So that's why I felt this is the right way to, start as a startup, start somewhere as a startup. Just a little bit details on, we can go to overview slide, little bit details on what we have done so far. So this is completely online. It's a safe platform. We are making sure on our website and app, only people above 21 can ask for a liquor, can get the deliveries. We have our own way of checking their IDs. We have done our market research. All licensing requirements have also been fulfilled. Storage and delivery is going to be done from the DC area itself. And we have a place, this place, MacArthur Road, we are renting this place from our landlord. It's kind of a flex place where we have an office there along with some kind of storage. And we're going to have our shipping and deliveries from there. So it's not going to be just completely like Grubhub and DoorDash with a lot of deliveries happening. It's going to be inventory plus the delivery. So that's where we differ from them. Again, it's completely online, website, app-based kind of business. Just the next slide just talks about, you know, how it's going to be safe, why this is more safer than the traditional liquor store. So there's no foot traffic as such, there's no traffic congestions, less or no crime possibilities. People have more options to compare prices, and of course, the convenience of getting stuff at their doorstep. Just like any other online business, we have the typical steps where a person can go on the website, they can register, log in, browse through our products, just put them in the cart, pay, and get them delivered. So that's about it. And I'm looking for this kind of letter of support so we can have our own, so we can start small business.
Okay, I think it would be great if we could open it up for questions, because I know that there are going to be a ton. And I'm going to start with Commissioner Commissioner Elkins.
Yes, thank you. Could we talk about what the neighbors will observe about this facility? First of all, are there going to be, will people even know what's going on there in terms of signs? Is there going to be a walk-in, or can people walk in or not?
So to answer that, there are two things. One, this place itself had a whiskey wholesale retailer, whiskey wholesale person had this office before us. So the reason of us choosing this office was because there was this kind of business already conducted in this office. He was a whiskey wholesaler who was doing the same kind of thing. From the foot traffic perspective, this is completely online. So the only foot traffic we're going to have is the delivery person picking up stuff and delivering. And that is also scheduled delivery. So it's not like anybody can come anytime. It's not like DoorDash. It's going to be completely scheduled. They're going to come in once or twice a day to pick up all the items and then just deliver it. This is only DC based for now.
What about the delivery of the articles to begin with? If they're coming to pick it up, you have to have it delivered to you. So what's the situation in that? What will neighbors see in terms of delivery to your premises?
So neighbors are used to this because there was a whiskey retailer there. Whiskey wholesaler there. It's not going to be huge deliveries. It's not like, there's a lot of stuff going out. Especially we are starting this, so it's new for us as well. And this is not going to be our main location for our storage. This is going to be a small storage area. We have another storage area that we might come up with. But because we're starting this new, even, we'll come to know how much business we're going to get. And then based on that, we'll take further decisions. But the main reason was just, because this was already conducted there. The neighbors are used to this. They already know that it's safe. It's not happening throughout the day. It's not like there's huge deliveries coming in and they're getting it disrupted.
And just the neighbors we're talking about, are they in the back of the building that would actually be seeing this, or are they in the front? How close are the closest neighbors, and where are they with regard to where the delivery activities will take place?
So I think this is on the first floor. I have not see. It's at the back of the building. There is a place at the back of the building where we can take and pick up stuff and pick it up.
So it's the neighbors in the back of the building who will be aware, if they are at all, about the.
I don't think there are any at the back of.
So
when I walked in the front.
Can someone explain to me where this unit is in relation to the Starbucks? Because I know that there are all of those businesses there and there's an alley behind, so no one really lives there, but I'm having a hard time. I don't know where this location is. Like if I'm at the Star, if
Yeah.
you're familiar with the area, if I'm at the Starbucks and there's,
Tricia, my name is Ashish. I'm with Anjali.
oh,
This
hi.
is actually the basement building. Like, I mean, it's underground. Like the lower floor. So you go downstairs. There are like other offices there.
Okay, so it's in that office building, but you go downstairs where like the karate and ballet are.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I know exactly where you're talking. Okay, thank you.
And then the delivery question, there is a parking in the back of the building, and so there's no disturbance to the neighbors because that's already a designated parking from where we can get our shipments. And this shipments, again, our main incoming shipments are not going to be every day. It's going to be like once a week or once a month. It's only the outgoing shipments that Anjali mentioned is going to be scheduled like twice or thrice in a day. So there's not like huge movement that's going to happen.
Thank you. That actually answers a bunch of my questions. So I have just two more. Are you doing just liquor? Are you also doing wine?
Yeah, it's all three, like it's wine, beer, and spirits.
Okay. And then I am assuming, I don't recall I've never been involved in an online liquor license. I'm assuming that this letter that you would get from us would have to, it would be part of your application to ABCA.
That's right.
Do you, so in other instances where we've dealt with ABCA, they will put a placard up to alert the neighbors, and then there's a 45-day count. In general, we have liked to wait until the placard is up in case there is questions or concerns from the neighbors that we're unaware of here. Has it been placarded? Do you have a hearing date set?
No, we were told to like first reach out to ANC, and it will be placarded. But what I've learned from the authorities is that the internet retailing is different from the traditional retail stuff. So it might be placarded, but yeah, I mean, they said that like, I mean, it's not exactly the way traditional liquor store work.
Okay.
So it's like
Okay.
different that because there's no traffic, there's no one coming into the store. Like,
okay, this is definitely new for us. So thank you for that. I'm gonna Commissioner Nowak.
I think this may have been answered vis-a-vis the question about it being in the basement, but by virtue of you being in that strip mall, there's already a loading dock or loading areas where trucks come and go for Mac Market and Starbucks. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so the deliveries you indicated will come in the back alley. Will the outbound deliveries be in via the back alley as well, or will it be in the front parking lot on MacArthur?
Ideally, it should be on the backside. So, I mean, where we are getting the incoming shipments would be the same place where we'll have the outgoing shipments.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Is there okay, so since this is new, did we want to go ahead and vote on this now? Okay, motion. Oh, someone has asked a question. I live in the back. How big are your trucks? Do you know?
It's actually the suppliers whose trucks are there, but they're not like the full trailer size, because our shipments are going to be like very small shipments. This is not going to be our major storage area. There's only like on demand, so for what we need for like next 2 or 3 days. So it's not going to be like big storage.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion. Motion on the floor is to send ABCA a letter of support for this business. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Is there any discussion from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Elkins.
I'm a little worried about whether the neighbors have been have been adequately notified. Because once they have the license, if they are successful, they will have more shipments. We want them to be successful. We want business to be successful in our neighborhood. And so I think we should assume, like an airport, that it may grow. And so I think we need to make sure that the neighbors are prepared for that. And I just wonder whether it's not placarded, and so I'm not sure.
I know there are some people from neighbors here who live in the area. If you wish to speak or enlighten us in some way, feel free to raise your hand.
Because this kind of business was already there, like the whiskey wholesaler I'm talking about, we are static, right? So we're going to be very smaller, than what they were there. So I'm sure neighbors are aware of that. They are already used to this concept. I mean, that was one of the reasons why we chose that area. So
can I ask you, with a restaurant liquor license, it has to be re-upped every 3 years. Do you know, with this online, if you get it, you just get your license like any retail store might?
Yeah, we still have to renew it after 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And quick question, if you were to grow and expand, say, into another office across the hallway, or your volume got up, would that require a new license in order to expand into another space within the same building? I guess we're not really sure. I think the concern that Commissioner Elkins from 3D01 is that it's going to become kind of a liquor distribution powerhouse that's going to start to impinge on traffic, and people, we're going to see like lots of trucks lining up moving booze in kind of a warehouse fashion. And this isn't really a warehouse facility, as you might find in like more industrial parks and other things around in other parts of the city that are closer to freeways and closer to distribution hubs and that kind of thing that are at volume. So sounds like you're saying this is more of a kind of a niche, smaller operation, and you said you have another warehouse distribution spot as well. So
yes, for our growth plans, we're not going to stock this because this is only 700 square feet location. So we're not going to like stock too much. If we have excess inventory, if we buy in bulk, it will be stocked another place. And for that, like, we'll have a separate license for warehousing it.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, my concerns about growth, I think, will be accommodated by the fact that they have to come back in for renewal of their license. At that point, if it really has become a problem, I trust neighbors will let us know and we can deal with it at that point.
I share your concerns, and those of the neighbors. We want to make sure that we are representing them for sure.
Okay. I, for one, feel like this business has already been in operation and it has new owners. So I feel fairly comfortable, since I didn't know we were selling whiskey online out of that location.
Yeah, it was actually more of a wholesaler. So they were selling whiskey wholesalers. So there is a question on security, and whiskey guys already had a security alarm and all that stuff installed. So when I met like Leslie, who's the real estate person out there, she actually showed me that these are the security alarms that were already existing in that place. So that's to address the security question which was posed.
You are on top of that better than I am. Thank you very much. I am going to go ahead and call the question. All those in favor of sending a letter of support to ABCA for this online liquor sale business. All those in favor? All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you for attending this meeting. I know it's late.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank
And
you.
I'll follow up with you for the letter and make sure we get it delivered properly and let you know
Sure.
the status and all that kind of thing.
All right, sounds good. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving right along and we have up the ANC3D priorities for 2024. And to quote Commissioner Elkins, this went viral. I think we got more comments on this through our online website comment thing. And in addition, the number of people who read this on Nextdoor was nothing short of miraculous. So I would like to hand this over to Commissioner Elkins to introduce what this list is, what our vision is for this. Take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Last year, when this commission was new, we did have a short list of transportation priorities, so there is a precedent for this, but nothing like what has been developed out of this dialogue with the community. And so we have quite a long list here. Where this came from in terms of enlargement from my point of view was the feeling is it's 2024. We've all been in office now for at least a year. We know what we're doing. Hopefully, we've had some impact. But I have a feeling because of the nature of the members of this commission that we would be interested in having even a bigger impact if we know how to do that and a positive impact on the neighborhood. And so I thought it was appropriate to challenge ourselves of instead of sort of going month to month and working on things just as they come up. And that's not quite the way we operate anyway, but more so a more planned approach of what we would like to accomplish this year, with the thought that if we had that in front of us as a constant reminder, we might well be able to plan how to get from A to B and be more successful. And sometimes a straight line between A and B isn't going to get us where we want to go, but if we have a strategy, maybe we can be more successful. And so, as opposed to being quite as much reactive and as opposed to planning. So, with that thought in mind, I put together a whole bunch of priorities and took some comments, of course, as you say, from the public and amended it. But I tried to phrase it in such a way that I gave us some flexibility about the details. In other words, we would be committing, I'm just throwing up at the top here, we would be committing to really working on safety improvements across all modes of transportation. And these are the items that have been bubbling up from the Transportation Committee and from others. A few of them are new. As we get into some of the newer areas, such as land use and housing, for instance, not new in terms of where we've been active, but new in terms of sort of saying, let's set some priorities. It essentially says, let's have a strategy, and it could include these items. So my feeling is that in agreeing to these priorities, we're primarily hitting the main point, the top points, and the others are primarily suggestions for how our strategy should evolve. But at the same time, if you see items here in this list that you don't think ought to be there, and now's the time to speak up, because I do have as an attachment to this action here a letter to Councilmember Fruman saying, Councilmember, here are the priorities that we've set for 2024, and there may be cases where collaboration with your office would be helpful. And if so, we will be in touch. And I add that if he has priorities where we could help him, we would like him to be in touch with us. I hope that sentiment is shared by my colleagues. So I'm just going to take a couple more minutes and touch on a few of these that I think have particular promise that I hope actually get really implemented well. One is the very first one, where we have been receiving a lot of comments about how it is not very safe to get to Key School. And it also extends as well to MacArthur and Horace Mann. I think because of the lack of sidewalks around Key School and because of MacArthur being a very difficult place to bike on, that I would put Key School at the top, but I'm suggesting that we take advantage of the fact that the DC has federal money to work on action plans for safe routes to schools, and that they have to do 25 of these in 2025. It's not clear that we would be chosen. In fact, I think the hint is we would not be chosen if they just follow their normal criteria. I'm suggesting that we work with the parent-teacher organizations and other neighbors and parents and develop draft action plans for safe routes to schools, but starting with Key, since I think that is the most challenging one and will get our energy going, and present those to DDOT and saying, look, there's not much more work you need to do. Why don't you get your engineers to do it and do a professional job on it? But we've done a lot of the data collection for you, and we've identified at least what neighbors think are some safe things that could be done for the school. So that's one of them. Another one is that in the comments on our priorities, I got a number of comments that talk about how dangerous MacArthur Boulevard has become. I mean, MacArthur is really the main street of the Palisades. And if you go into a village these days across America, you may be on a highway, but darn, you better slow down when you go through a village. I don't think people who are coming in through MacArthur think of us as a village that they're slowing down for. And I'm suggesting that maybe there's some energy here among our neighbors and among our commissioners to take a hard look at traffic calming on MacArthur Boulevard. I don't have any preconceived ideas of what they might be, but I think there's a high need for it, and that people might well have some very creative ideas, which we could then present to the Department of Transportation. So then moving on to only two more, down on new sidewalks. We have a new opportunity to make a big impact on sidewalks. We have a lot of neighborhoods that do not have sidewalks on either side of the street. Some people would like to keep it that way, and it may make sense that that's what happens, but some of them are pretty close to schools, parks, and others, and maybe there should be sidewalks there. The district has now, in a really a revolutionary way, and I credit the acting director of DDOT for this, that they have, instead of just saying, well, we have a list of 50 that we might build one of these days, they've gone through and looked at every single gap in sidewalks all over the city, and they have graded them. They've scored them. Now, the bad news is that most of our sidewalk gaps score in the 4s, and they're only funding in the 6s and above at this point, and we've got the 5s in between us. I think that some of these sidewalks may well be suitable to be graded at a 5. I'm thinking about the ones near Key School, for instance, and near the facility we were just talking about on MacArthur Boulevard. So I don't know how we get them rescored, but some community input might well be effective, in which we collect data and submit it. The last one I'll mention is just to reinforce on the crime side. We have a lot of people in our community, judging from the traffic on these priorities, who have an elevated interest in crime compared to what they had maybe a year or two ago. And some of this, of course, is citywide, but some of it is directed to our own community. And I think the normal reaction we have is, why don't we ask the Metropolitan Police to do a better job? hire more officers or whatever. And that's useful for us to be on that, pushing for that. But I'm suggesting that maybe there's some things that we can do with our neighbors, because there's a lot of energy there, to work together as neighbors with MPD to make this neighborhood less attractive to criminals. Almost all the crime is, most of the acts of criminal behavior in this neighborhood are not robberies. They are not burglaries. They are vehicle oriented. And I think there's some things we might do to encourage our neighbors not to be so negligent. Oh, I can't find me a better word than negligent. Careless with regard to leaving their cars unlocked or leaving their computer or purse in the car. They're doing themselves a bad favor, but they're also doing us a bad favor. They're making this neighborhood attractive. And I think we ought to be a little bit more locked up in our cars and perhaps in our homes as well. I think there's something we can work with our neighbors on. So I'm commending to you this set of priorities, and I will stop and allow people to delete some items or add some items or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins. I know a lot of time was put into this. Do any of the commissioners have any discussion, potential edits? Commissioner Horn.
I just want to thank Commissioner Elkins for all the work he's put on this. It's a great way to organize, you know, our set of goals, and I know it was a lot of work.
I'd like to second that. This is really, it's so terrific to have this all in one place and to see this all so nicely organized. And I know we don't want to get in the weeds about it tonight, I don't think, but one thing I would just like to say that for some of these, like, for example, the bicycle is a component of the bicycle aspect that I feel like would work really well in section 1.1 with making it safer to get to Key School. If we were to improve the trolley trail and make it more accessible, that runs parallel to MacArthur Boulevard. And it's a terrific alternative for bicycles and pedestrians to avoid the busy, you know, 4-lane thoroughfare. And it, you know, I think most of us are familiar with how far it is. It runs pretty far, not the, of course, complete length of all the Key School student residents and that kind of thing, but it could be one huge notch and be something to present to the city as a way to encourage alternative transportation to and from Key Elementary School, because
Andrew, I appreciate that point. And the point I would make, just to try to drive home, is I think in the past, we've taken up each of these projects by themselves. So we have dealt with the trolley trail some, we've dealt with this or that. I think they look different, and maybe in a way we can sell them better if we look at them in this larger context, like how do we make it possible for parents and kids to get to Key School safely every single day?
Yeah, my point exactly, yeah.
I think that is something we can all get on board with, and we can decide whether the trolley trail is an important part of it.
For sure.
So then we need to push it. So
great, thank you.
Any other comments? So I will make a comment. I've read through this probably 80 times at this point, but I also see this as a sounding a springboard for guiding people on the oversight hearings and presenting testimony. I mean, we're obviously not going to testify on all of this, but if something is on this list that you put on there, this I think would sort of signal to our group that you know, people would read your testimony, we could approve it, give it great weight. I think this is I think it's great.
Are non-commissioners allowed to talk now?
Oh, if you raise your hand, we do call on members of the public.
I'm a member of the public.
Hello, Ms. Michaels, go ahead.
Hello. There are many of us who are just gagging and choking when we see these broad spread, you know, these are our goals and priorities. And sneaking in there is this trolley trail that starts with the trestle. That's just kind of, that, I don't want to support that. It's a nice little, and I've sent you all a letter. It's a quaint little artifact of history that would be lovely to renovate, but to use it as an access to pave the green spot in front of our homes, those of us who live there, that's not something that you can sneak into this very large list of priorities and think that, some of us are just going to sit quietly.
So I would like
accept
to make one comment. This ANC has already voted to approve the purchase of the trestle bridge and done all the trestle bridge. And before this commission even met, they have voted on the trolley trail at least 1 or 2 times. But that said, this is a list of priorities and is not anything that we do to pursue these priorities would likely take a vote, separate comment period. We'd publish letters. This is sort of a guidebook of issues we are going to work on. So let's say that the trolley trail was in here. There could be some commissioners here who are in full support of that. We also got a ton of comments about making part of MacArthur Boulevard and LSV Lane. It is one of these things that we would work on this, but we would never, ever, ever use this document as, oh, the ANC has given this a seal of approval and now we can go to the city and say, hey, this gives us great weight. That is
not what it looks like. I hear you saying that, but it's not what it looks like. And when this comes up a year, every year or so, it shows up and we all keep saying, no, no, no. And you all keep saying, we're not going to listen to you because this is what we want. And you're telling me, yeah, we voted on this several times. Well, we keep telling you that we don't want it and we keep asking you not to, but you keep not listening. And we live here and we have a lovely strip of green and you want to pave that over from what I can tell.
Ms. Michaels, with all due respect, there are a lot of people in the community that do want it. So I understand that you don't, and I appreciate that. But there are quite a few people that do want it. And so,
They don't live here.
and it's my responsibility as a commissioner to make their voice heard as well. So, we got to remember that we have 2 competing sides, and I appreciate your point of view. I really do, and I respect it. And I appreciate you being here and sharing that. But you have to remember that there are a lot of people that don't agree with you too. And so we are here to listen to everybody and to take everybody's consideration, everybody's thoughts on the matter into consideration. So
just so long
and
as you
just building on that,
there are those of us who do not agree with you, just as there are those who do, and we live here.
Sure.
We live on the streets where you want to pave it over.
So I do just want to highlight that this document does not refer to the paving of the trolley trail at all. It says preserve the trestle. And so to expand that into something much greater than it is at this current time would be, I think, overly expansive.
I think that's not a straight answer to that because that's what's sneaking up. It's always in the background of having a bike trail. And bike trail, it always means bike trail, not pedestrians. It's always bikers who take those over. And it's in the background. It just keeps coming up over and over again. So you're not going to convince me that it's not there. I've already said that. I hope you heard me.
Commissioner Simkowitz?
Yeah, in defense of our commission, Commissioner Elkins and I were on the commission when we had a meeting about 5 years ago regarding paving the trail. And we heard testimony from, I don't know, 70 people, maybe, Commissioner Elkins. It was a lot of people. And the side that lost was the keep it natural side. And, that's a decision of the commission. We're not going back and this document is just for priorities for this year. It doesn't go back and change that vote or vote again. I mean, if we want to reconsider that, we have the opportunity to keep it natural, but that's not the vote we took 5 years ago.
So that's saying the exact opposite of what I was just told, that this is not a decision.
I think that we're all saying the same thing, that none of these are decisions.
None of
this is a list of things that we put our focus on in 2024, not decisions that we have made. They are things that we will explore and ask the community for input on and vote on as individual items. but this is a way to give us some direction as we formulate our agendas for the remaining 11 meetings of the year.
Yes, if you, Ms. Michaels, if you'd like to present at a later meeting a position to keep it natural and not pave it, you can do that. But we're not here for that today.
So you are saying that the plan is to pave it, while other people
No.
are saying there's no plan.
No, we
Okay,
voted.
I'm done. I'm
We
done.
voted to keep
I'm
it.
done.
We voted to pave it.
You're not,
5
obviously.
years ago. That decision stands. If you want to keep it natural, you can get a group of neighbors together and have us change our opinion. But that, you know, we make a decision and we stand by it until it's until we change it.
So you are planning to pave it, even though others saying you're not. And we are trying to tell you
That's
this.
not what we said.
Also, I
Yeah,
would like to point out that the ANC doesn't pave things. We give our recommendations to DDOT, and ANC3D has given a recommendation to DDOT. Before this commission here, they took up this matter and they sent a letter saying, yes, we agree with this. But that doesn't, like, DDOT hasn't paved it yet. So
And Commissioner Duncan, I believe the vote was 9-1 against keep it natural.
Yes. Well, you're making my point for me. You have made the decision. And I'm ready to move on because you're not moving anywhere. I'm ready to move on.
Okay, I started my comments with you that the ANC3D had already voted on that issue, but that particular issue, the trolley trail, is not on this list. The trestle is.
Well, no, I think, Madam Chairman, there is up above it, there is build the Arizona Avenue Bridge and the associated trolley trail from Galena to Nebraska. So
Oh, we did. Okay.
it's on
And
there.
it says the trolley trestle with a provision, you know, looking forward to building the trolley, the bike thing. It's in there. You wrote it.
We did. Well, we already voted on it.
Exactly.
And I would like to note at the
Dumb,
top.
you think I am?
You're excused from our commission discussion.
Wow.
Thank you.
Power.
Are there any other comments from commissioners? All right, motion on the floor.
I think you guys did a great job serving the community and asking for input. And I think this is a great list of priorities, and I'm excited to work towards all of them and see what we can get done. It's a little expansive, so we'll have to see what we can do. But I'm really excited for this year.
And again, thanks to Chuck Elkins, Commissioner Elkins, for putting this together. I don't believe that we ever did this in the manner that we presented it this year, and I thank him for all of his efforts because this took a lot of time and he got a lot of feedback. He got, I don't know how many emails, but he got a lot of comments. Thank you, Chuck.
Mr. Allen has his hand raised.
Yes, I think it's a great list. In light of the discussion just had, I'm wondering if the heading of this might be changed. I don't want to wordsmith it right now, but it is called a draft list. It says version 8, and particularly the points that you were making, Commissioner Duncan, about what this list is. It's not a set of decisions about what the commission is in favor of or not. It is essentially a plan for where do we want to focus. And you may want to, not right now necessarily, but you may want to just put some language in there to that effect in the paragraph at the very top in bold, so that nobody who hasn't had the benefit of listening to this discussion would misinterpret what it is.
Madam Chairman, I would take that as a friendly amendment, so to speak. I think
Okay, well, I like the word focus. I think that is appropriate.
Right.
Great suggestion. All right. Motion on the floor is to approve the priority focus list as amended. All those in favor? Commissioner Simkowitz, can you give us a verbal?
Yeah, I was just getting some food. Yeah, yes, thank you.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. I apologize if I was short with any of our neighbors there.
JP, I think you should have had your food delivered.
Well, it might be delivered by my wife in a few minutes.
I hear
If
that's a
I'm
very
lucky.
popular option these days.
Next item is the review and approval of the program review report on DDOT sidewalk repair program. Again, I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Elkins. I just loved this report, by the way.
Madam Chairman, this is a subject that has been before this commission and certainly very actively discussed in the Transportation Committee for a good number of years. We've been unsuccessful in the past to convince the council to change this. Last time, we at least got the director of DDOT to tell the chairman of the committee that he was looking at it, and no change has taken place in the year since that time. Of course, he's not there anymore. Maybe that's why he's not there. Anyway, here's the situation. My testimony stimulated some colleagues on the Capitol Hill Village to get very involved in this subject. And as you can see from the report, they have been more active than we have in this regard and have produced a tremendous amount of data, which really shows that this is a neglected area. I suggested, rather than just having testimony, that they actually turn it into a report, and I worked with them on that, with the thought that if the auditor of DC can produce reports and try to get the attention of the committees, maybe citizens can do the same thing, and instead of just having testimony. So that's why you see it as a report. I think the report will be improved as we get more data from DDOT. And so what this letter does is not so much say this report is the final word, but it instead says we support, as ANC3D, we support the basic recommendations of this report, which is to shorten the time that it takes for the city to react to tripping hazards. We've talked to DDOT and we think this is technically feasible. It's a budget problem, and it's a setting of goals and allocation of money within the department. This can be fixed. So this is phase one of an effort this year by those of us who care about sidewalks to convince the council that this is the year to do something about it. And so you notice that the letter is directed at trying to set up these oversight hearings so there actually are some data that the council can deal with in terms of making the decision. I get very frustrated with these oversight hearings. You go in and say XYZ is a problem, and they say, oh, yeah, I guess it is. But there's nothing the council can do about it because they don't have the data to know how much it would cost them to fix it. So they, don't do it. We need to get past that problem, and this is an attempt to do that by doing this at the 1st of January. The hearing is on the 9th of February. So there is time for the council members, Fruman and Allen, to actually ask DDOT for the information. And we have asked DDOT for the information, and the person we're dealing with inside the department is working on this. Whether he will be free to give it to anybody is another matter. But anyway, so that's sort of the background of this. And I asked the support of 3D and my fellow commissioners here to really push this forward in this sort of a new way of trying to help the council make this important decision. So I move that we adopt this letter, and I'm looking for a second.
I'll second that. Commissioner Elkins, I think this is an excellent letter for several reasons. Number one, I think it is really clear and concise, the key findings from the report, and also the call to action to the committee members and the director are exceptionally clear. The one suggestion I'd make and ask you to consider as a friendly amendment is to put a due date on your request. Might we say that in preparation for the oversight hearings on February 9th, that we are asking the committee members, I'm sorry, council members, to make this request to DDOT such that they can respond to the questions on February 9th, as opposed to simply asking the questions on February 9th, and then, 6 months from now, maybe they'll get back to them.
Yes, I think we can definitely make that change. I think that would be helpful.
And then the third, it's just a tiny little typo at the paragraph that starts on the bottom of page 1. I think the word should be inexplicably. And I think maybe autocorrect just did something funky there. So
I'm looking for that. Wait a minute.
After the 4 bullet points, the 4 recommendations of the report, the next sentence.
So how do you spell that?
INEXPLICABLY.
Ding.
Scripts, here I come.
Okay, we will fix that. I had trouble with that word. I said, what is that word I'm trying to find? So you thank you for that.
It takes a village, Commissioner. It takes a village.
Right. And the internet didn't help me. I needed AI. But before that, a fellow commissioner is the best.
I wholeheartedly support this. Are there any other comments before we go for a vote? Thanks for your work
This
on.
is amazing.
Yeah, just amazing.
I mean, it's incredible. It's kind of unprecedented to work with another commissioner, and I hope we see more stuff like this across ANC, citywide, to push for DC to do stuff like that. I mean, this is an incredibly important issue, and the work you've put into it is amazing, Chuck, and I'm really happy that we get to send this.
We might go out and get other ANCs to approve it.
Yes, we're going to go to other ANCs. We're going to look to see where the sidewalk repair requests have come in. We're going to try to go to those ANCs and try to before February 9th, which is the deadline, as Marilyn says. That's the deadline for a decision. So,
all right, motion on the floor is to approve this letter as amended. All those in favor? Unanimous. We're on a roll tonight. That concludes our official actions. We are going to move on to commission business. We have already elected our officers. Thank you, everyone who has offered to serve. And very quickly, I would like us to vote on the meeting dates for next year. Brad, could you pull those up quickly? And I'm just going to highlight a couple of things that we could change if we wanted. Everything is the first Wednesday of every month till you get to July 10th. And the first Wednesday would be July 3rd. I already know I'm going to be tied up, so I won't. That's the hoedown at the Palisades Park. So I would like to keep that the 10th. The August 7th, that is the first. Wait, is that the first Wednesday, August 7th? It is. Okay. And that's only if needed. This is one we should consider. September 4th is going to be the Wednesday after Labor Day. And then December if needed. And then we always do the second Wednesday of January.
October 9th is also the second, Madam Chairman. That's because there's a Jewish holiday on the 2nd, I believe.
Thank you. So there are a number of days in here that are not on the first Wednesday. Does anyone have feelings about that?
I suggest that we can leave the Labor Day week in place as stated, September 4th, because schools are back in session. I think Labor Day sort of is the time, the marker for everything goes back to post-summer activity. So I'd say we're okay there. Good call out, Commissioner, on October. It is important that we make our meetings accessible to people of all faiths. So I'm certainly in support of that change.
Motion on the floor is to approve this calendar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Simquist seconds the motion. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? It's unanimous. We'll get that published as soon as we can. The last item on my page here is participation in the ANC Security Fund. This is something that's required. It's $50. We need to vote on it. There's paperwork involved. Motion on the floor is to approve the ANC Security Fund. Is there a second? Commissioner Nowak. Does anyone have any questions about this? I know Commissioner Davis is new. Commissioner Elkins.
There's specific wording that I think we need to be careful to approve, and it's there on our website. In other words, they've written the resolution that they would like us to adopt, and they're sort of sticky downtown, and I think maybe we should try to adopt it.
So the resolution that's on the website is what they sent me, and I just inserted all those 3Ds in there.
Right.
So I am
That's what,
assuming,
Yeah, OANC provided the language.
right, that's what we're adopting.
Yeah.
yes, this is exactly what we're adopting.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
All the motion on the floor is to approve the ANC Security Fund. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. This next one is the approval of the minutes. With no objection, I am going to go for October, November, and December, all in one motion. Okay, motion on the floor is to approve the minutes for October, November, and December. Do I have a second?
Yep.
Commissioner Elkins gave a second.
Makes sense.
I'd also like to say that the December minutes have some amendments or some changes, and I take those as friendly amendments and would like to incorporate them into the minutes. Any other discussions? All right, motion on the floor is to approve the minutes for October, November, and December as amended. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Moving on, treasurer's report. How much money do we have?
We have the same amount that we had at the last time because we wrote no checks in Q4. And so I will present the QFR with that information for adoption and submission to the OANC, but it was a very quiet quarter in 3D.
I would also like to say that now that we have approved the minutes for the last quarter, we can I'll sign those and we can send them in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I should just use this treasurer's minute though to talk about the fact that in 2023, the DC auditor approved the use of debit cards by ANCs. This had previously been prohibited. So I will be headed down to our bank to get a debit card issued for our account that we will then be able to use for recurring charges such as our website and our Zoom account and things that had previously been the responsibility of individual commissioners to put down a credit card and then seek reimbursement. This will just streamline that process, and I hope that it will save you all some hassle going forward. One caution, and I know this affects at least one commissioner, but in case there are others, I am not authorized to write checks until this paperwork is filed and accepted by the auditor. So there may be a short delay in any reimbursements that have come my way. So my apologies in advance for that, but I did just want to highlight it's not because I have not seen or acknowledged and I will send back an email acknowledgement of those expenses, but just I want to stay in the good graces of the district auditor.
Which brings me up to something else that's very, very important. If you need to go into the bank, all of the officers need to go back and do new signature cards every year. So Commissioner Horn, Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Nowak, and myself are going to need to go to the bank and sign those signature cards because they are required with the security fund.
And if I'm
I will email everyone separately, but we should probably make an appointment and go, and maybe we can do that at the same time as the debit card.
And if I could just say, we have 45 competitors of commissions that are competing for the auditor's time in reviewing these documents. And if you want to write new checks anytime soon,
Yep.
be good to be there sooner rather than later and try to beat the other commissions, some of which have not yet met for the month. We happen to be meeting fairly early in the month, so the sooner we can get ours in, the more. Last year we were number one, and we got a quick return from.
We did. We did. Madam Chair, maybe I'll shoot you a note and we'll see if we might coordinate and go in on Friday afternoon perhaps and get this knocked out.
Okay. And then I'll get with Commissioner Horn and Davis because
You need a copy of the minutes that elected you officers. And what we've done in the past is we have written a quick version of the minutes that include that election information, and you hand it over to the bank. So I'm sorry, that is they're just not going to do it at the bank until you have the minutes. So
I can write something quick by Friday.
Be very helpful.
Great.
Thanks, Brad. And I do think, and I'm sure this has been your experience, Commissioner Elkins, that I've had this experience with other boards on which I've served, that since the signatories aren't changing, it goes a little bit, the bank, it's a little bit smoother. This is my first renewal with PNC, so hopefully that's the case with them, but
right.
That's my experience with other banks.
Mr. Davis is new. Commissioner Davis is new. I assume Commissioner Davis
true.
does not have a bank account at PNC.
I did not. No.
Okay, so you're going to have to bring your identification. Everybody has to bring identification, but you in particular have to fill out some stuff. So
okay, sure, happy to.
But it should go fast. Although they change bank managers, and then they say, "What's this?"
Yeah.
I've been there. Before.
That's why I've gone for the last 7 times, and I'm saying I'm not going this time. Reprieve. The chair. I asked the chair for a reprieve.
Granted.
Granted. You're on your own. There we are.
So I would like to move on to noticing our next meeting is February 7th, and I'm pulling up my calendar. This is also the same day of a BZA hearing for 5122 Cathedral. We still don't have their plans, but maybe we'll have them by then. And also for the Trammell Crow sidewalk appeal, which probably will be rescinded. I don't know what they'll do. Anyway. Our meeting is that day. It's going to be a busy day. And with that, I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Commissioner Nowak, discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. We are officially adjourned. Thank you to all the members of the public who came and listened and presented and spoke and gave comments. We really appreciate you following what ANC3D is doing. On that, good night, everyone.
It's not 10 o'clock yet.
Oh my gosh. You're welcome. Bye.